Good morning. The gavel is on its way down here. So I'm just going to call this meeting to order and say welcome to the regular open meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. This is Tuesday, October 1st. And we do have a quorum, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led for us by Director Millman.
Please stand. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Acknowledging the media. I can see we're on air. That's the only media so far today. Approval of the agenda. Thank you. Second. All those in favor? Thank you. And approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was September 3rd.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, thank you. Moving along. Wow. Report of the chair.
What I say, moving along.
Report of the chair. Thank you so much. Our GRF board and the staff have been busy with a variety of projects this month. Many of these projects will be addressed in this meeting. I just want to express my gratitude for the work of our board. The entire board has been really, really working hard. And during our board meetings and the committee meetings, as well as task force members who spend so many hours problem solving and addressing the needs of the village, working side by side with our staff members. And I need you to know that our staff members are right there with us, working and spending those long hours with us. Well, last month, we, at this board meeting, reviewed a request from the Baha'i community for them to gift the village with a bench and several trees. At this time, the staff is addressing this request and other similar requests in the future by doing a researching and writing a policy. So putting together a policy regarding both donations and acknowledgements. This policy proposal will be brought to the GRF board for a vote in the near future. Just wanted to let you know that because that's something from our last meeting that we discussed. Laguna Woods Village operates under an arrangement in which a corporation dedicated to the village called the Village Management Service, and that's VMS is how we relate to it. And VMS acts as our management for GRF, Third Mutual, and United Mutual. The management contract has been under review for months. Lawyers for GRF, Third, United, and VMS have been working together to provide a revised, updated, and agreed upon, so we are all agreeing on this one management contract, agreed upon and improved agreement. I am happy to report that after two very long special meetings in the past 2 weeks, and very, very hard work by our legal counsel and all of our GRF board members, GRF has prepared a draft, I'm going to emphasize the word draft, a draft contract with VMS, which is now ready to be reviewed, and hopefully a final draft will soon be approved by our sister village boards, as well as coming back to us for us to do a final approval. This updated contract will represent a major advance in the stability and clarity in our self-management. Remember, we've been going through this transition with self-management for four years now. So it'll bring stability and clarity to our self-management and provide clearer guidelines for both management and village boards for years to come. We look forward to resuming work with our colleagues on United Third and VMS boards and their council to finalize this joint agreement. In addition to this, there will be this joint agreement, this overall contract, but in addition, United, Third, and GRF boards will each complete an individual contract with VMS, and that will reflect the needs that are unique to each and every corporation. So thank you. I hope that I explained that clearly to you. This is a process that has been so involved and going on for so long, and I just need to once again have you look around this table, and everyone started with Cheryl on that end and Siobhan on that end, and coming all the way around, all of us have worked so very hard to come up with a contract that we think is clear and encompasses everything that we thought was necessary, and we've all put in our opinions, our thoughts, and what we think is best for the community, and that has been happening with each of the boards. They've been working together with their legal counsel and coming up with, and hopefully we're so close to the final agreement. But we think we have our final draft done. We'll see, but we are hoping, crossing our fingers. Anyway, that is the chair's remarks, and I thank you. And next we have, and remember, we're doing the 1 month, we're doing our VMS report, and then the next month we'll have our board member, our board director, Judith Troutman, and she represents us on the disaster prep committee, and she will be reporting every other month. And so this is the month that we would like Judith to report. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, and good morning. This morning, well, we met last Tuesday at 9:30 here in the boardroom. We meet on the last Tuesdays of odd months, 9:30 here in the boardroom. So this morning, due to recent earthquakes around the world, I've asked our office manager, Tom Soul, to come up and show you an example of some of our most popular items that we sell in our DPTF office, which is located in this building on the first floor in the northeast corner of this building. Tom?
Forgive my nervousness. I'm not usually on this side of the podium. As Judith mentioned, I'm Tom Soul. I'm the office manager. We want to first thank you all very much for your deep support. It's been greatly encouraging to us. The primary purpose of the Disaster Task Force is to inform and try to train our residents to be self-sufficient. This means sheltering in place if possible. We offer in this line 3 basic classes: basic first aid, CPR AED, and the Good Neighbor Building Captain's Training class. To emphasize the first 2, these are again very basic, but these do offer the residents the skills they might need to help take care of themselves and maybe their neighbors. The Good Neighbor Captain's Training is one of the primary ones we look for. This is to educate the population of this village to be self-sufficient if possible and to help look after their own neighbors. A building captain basically, in a sense, is a very good neighbor. They go around to each of their neighbors in their particular buildings, and they would knock on their doors and check and see whether they're physically okay or if they have any property damage. We have 2 forms they would fill out, and then take those forms and report them back to each of the clubhouses, where they would be assessed and then sent up to the headquarters to review and to see if they could dispatch any aid to those residents. They are, in a sense, the extra eyes, ears, and legs of the community. In many cases, we may even have to ask these people to go out again and to review other areas where we do not have building captains. Judith might mention this later on in another meeting, but we are sorely lacking in a lot of building captains. We've got 18,000 residents and I think about 12,000 manners. We probably have building captains, about 500 building captains. So we are way behind in what we need. These building captains basically are going to be in case of an earthquake, the first line of defense, as well as for the general staff under Chief Moy. Security staff would, of course, assess the immediate dangers, but these building captains can go places where the security staff cannot. We offer in our office some items you see here on the floor and also up on the desk. These are at cost. We are basically a nonprofit organization, as the community is, so we don't charge any sales tax, and the prices are set as the cost is to the community. We ask that the residents try to look around, even online. We're going to try to get a new list of websites. The community is discussing buying or perhaps offering meals ready to eat and other food items that the community may need or residents may need. The residents would, of course, purchase them themselves, but at least they'll get access through a good website. One of the biggest problems we have is getting the community to realize they need to have enough water. And at this end, you can see this water hose we have up here, and it's listed on your flyer if you did get one. We use and ask them to use their water heaters. These are already self-contained water. Same tap water goes into those as it comes out the faucets. We need water, at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for up to 2 to 3 weeks. Sounds like a lot, and it is. But the tanks do hold enough water to keep you going before you have to tap into your 1 gallon jugs and such. We also want to have emphasized that these regulations are not just arbitrary. It's what the Red Cross and FEMA suggest. So we're not just pulling things out of thin air, but we are using governmental advice. And that concludes my presentation.
Can you tell us what's in the red bag?
Yes, in the red bag, which is on the floor here, I'm sorry, I had it up here, but if you had that, you probably couldn't see me. We call the car bag. It's the red bag itself, a survival blanket, a light stick, a 3-day food bar, 6 packs of water, some handy wipes, and a face mask. There's still enough room to add on to that stuff. To be very honest with you, the food bar is a last-ditch resort. It's a high-energy sort of granola bar. It's scarred up for 6 different cubes. But like I said, I suggest to most people, look around the grocery store for your own granola bars and whatever else treats you might like that will keep you going for a couple of days.
And what does that sell for?
That sells for $12. The large big bag you see down the floor is our single-person bag. That goes for $42. One thing we do emphasize to the residents is that since cost is a factor, we have another kit. It's called the second-person bag. It's $6. That contains an additional food bar, 6 packs of water, and another blanket. So they can make that single-person bag now into a dual-person bag. So for $48, they can cover 2 people rather than having to pay $84. We always are trying to help the residents save money.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone from the board have questions? Okay. Thank you, Tom. That was very helpful. Like you said, all of these items and more are offered in our office, which is located on the first floor here in the community center.
Judith, excuse me, I do have a question
Yes.
for Tom. Tom, you mentioned that we really need building captains. If someone decided, oh, I would like to be a building captain, what do they do about that? How do they let you know?
There is a form in the office they can sign up. We're going to have a building captain's training session this Wednesday. It's in
Clubhouse 3.
Clubhouse 3, and it's from 1 to 3. It's you have to sign up for it. You just show up.
Yeah. Dining room 2.
Thank you.
Clubhouse 3 tomorrow.
Dining room 2, yes, tomorrow. In addition, of course, there's the forms in the office, and we also, I think they're online. I'd have to double check.
Yes.
I have not been on the website, but they're online so they can sign up there. Again, we emphasize people, there's a list of different qualifications. If you don't want to be a building captain and you're good, maybe a next nurse or a next doctor, doesn't matter really. We would like you to sign up to help us out with that, because it's a big need we're going to need. There's also places there for like translators, or if you want, you can volunteer to help in the office. I could use some extra help in the office. I just lost 2 of my girls. So it's a good way to get the community involved. People wonder, there's a lot of work involved. I says, well, if you like your neighbors, and even if you don't like some of them, you need to look after them as best you can. And knocking on the door and just saying, Judith, how are you today? Everything okay? You got any problems? And just check off. The forms we give them are self-explanatory, and they're already lined out, and there's different divisions as far as injuries, the type of injuries, and the same thing with the property damage. So they don't have to think about remembering anything. You just look at the form, check it off, and hand it back in. And that's how we can get the residents the aid they might need.
What are the office hours?
The office hours are Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. I'm sorry, 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay.
Thank you so much. Oh,
Yes,
we've
Miss-
got a couple other questions here.
Yeah.
Ray?
Just a thought. People that might be good captains would be retired police officers and firemen because they've been involved in these situations for many, many, many years. Just a thought, maybe put something out in the Globe and or the paper requesting any retired police officers or firemen that might consider that. That would be a big help.
That's a good idea. I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
And Judith, or not Judith, Joan?
Just a word about the 3-story buildings. They have 24 units per building. And if you have 3 building captains, 1 for each floor, or even 6, it breaks it down a bit so that you don't have to go to the whole building. So buildings organized, please. It's very important that we get building captains, especially for those that are handicapped and we might have difficulty getting away from the building.
Yes, that is how we've been doing it. That's the same with the towers. They do floor captains.
Yeah, that is correct. Since we've become a little more closer to the garden villas, we emphasize to them because there's a distinction. The garden villas do have a building captain, and as I understand it, their job is to primarily look after the different physical aspects of the building: stairs, elevators, what's going on in the garage, laundry rooms. What we emphasize for them is to break it down to like floor captains, as you say. Each floor captain would handle each floor, maybe even as half the floor, if they don't, as far as depending on the age of the residents, and then hand those forms in to the building captain, and they could designate someone then to take those forms to the local clubhouses.
Thank
Because
you.
we want to include everybody. We exclude nobody.
That's great.
Anybody else?
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Judith, you have
Yeah,
more
I'd
for
like to
your
finish,
report.
and then finish my report. Okay, again, the Good Neighbor, we took out the word building. So the Good Neighbor Captain Training will be tomorrow, October 2nd, Clubhouse 3, Dining Room 2, from 1 to 3. Then October 21st will be the Adult CPR and AED training from 1 to 4 at Clubhouse 7. We also have a medical registry that Tom mentioned that's made of a combination of active and retired medical personnel. So if you are a retired doctor or nurse or EMT or paramedic or something of that nature, we used those individuals at the care and reception centers during an emergency for obvious reasons. So if you have a background in that, you can get the form either at the office where Tom works or online at the Laguna Woods Village website where you can get all of these forms that I've mentioned. Go under security, and from there go down to disaster preparedness. Our care and reception centers are our clubhouses, except for Gate 14. Gate 14 does not have a clubhouse. So there, the building 4008, the recreation room down in the car garage, is the care and reception center for the Gate 14 area. He mentioned MREs. 2 meetings ago, we had an option. If you're military, you know what an MRE is. That's meals ready to eat, and they dehydrated foods sometimes come in bags that are good for up to 5 to 7 years, depending on which ones you buy. And we all had a chance to taste those. Again, our meeting is odd months, the last Tuesday. Our next meeting, November 26th at 9:30, here in the boardroom. And we are, even if you go to the Good Neighbor training tomorrow, there's no obligation. And they have free munchies and coffee, and you'll get a better idea of how easy the job is, because you can make a difference. And the rule now is the first 72 is up to you, because that's the time that's the most critical. Having a building captain just knock on a door, take that information, put it on a piece of paper, then they get that information to their coordinator at their nearest clubhouse, and that's how it gets radioed to the first responders. And that's how they know where to go first. And so that person is critical, and we are very undermanned for volunteers for Good Neighbor Captains. So please consider volunteering for one of these positions. Thank you. Yeah, the shakeout's going to be October 17th, and because it's the 10th month and the 17th day, it'll take place at 10:17. And that's where we hope in the meetings, or wherever you are, you will stop and duck and cover and practice. Also, the disaster preparedness team, at the top, they implement part of their emergency operating plan and practice with the radios as if we were having a real emergency, because practice is preparedness. And I've talked about that in the past. So that's going to come up in October 17th. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And next we have our CEO report, Jeff Parker.
Thank you, Madam President, and to the board. Three things I wanted to mention. The first one, Beth, you had already alluded to in great detail, so I'll keep my comments limited. I wanted to thank the board for their efforts on the management agreement and putting the draft together. And we had a conversation this morning with all the attorneys involved as a follow-up to that to keep this ball moving. And so that process is in play, and the other mutuals have scheduled timeframes in which they're going to be taking it up and taking a look at the drafts that have been done and getting comments back to you. So again, thank you for that. Couple of key things I wanted to mention is as part of the VMS organizational change and evaluation of ourselves and getting also feedback from the boards, such as yourself. We have been working at the staff level along with a couple of our VMS board members to define some key performance indicators and that we will be able to evaluate on a regular basis as how we're performing and how we're meeting that. And that's really focused on customer service and how we're turning around timely things, or resident requests, calls for services, but also on the financial side, making sure that we're meeting the 5 goals that we came out of our strategic plan, which just wanted to mention again is November 20th, our updated strategic plan meeting. And those goals, just a reference, were to ensure financial stability and longevity, to improve customer service, to meet our residents' needs and concerns, attract and develop and retain high-quality staff, and then also to implement technology advances and to upgrade our infrastructure. So within those categories, we're going to come up with some key performance indicators that we think will encompass the vision that we had relative to that strategic plan. So just wanted to mention that. It's an ongoing process. And finally, a issue that we have worked on really, in fact, since July. We were given notice in July that our insurance carrier, who covers us with regards to our property insurance, we had one carrier that provided $700 million worth of property insurance, was no longer going to provide that. They were withdrawing from that position. So at that point in time, our broker started to work with that carrier to see if they were going to do anything, well, less just totally pull out. And they did come back as our base carrier, but only for $50 million of that $700 million. So at that point in time, the broker started working, not notifying staff, but also started working out there in the world of insurances to try to build what we call a ladder of insurance to get up to the $700 million, which was the goal and what we needed to accomplish. That took a long time due to the fact that the Property insurance market, unfortunately, has dried up a great deal due to the major wildfires in California and the hurricanes and disasters on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. Those three kind of crescendoed into a process in which we found a lot of carriers were not interested in giving what we call our excess coverage, which is above 50 million, towards that 700 million. I am very glad to say that we accomplished our goal in getting it, though. We have issued agreements back to the broker accepting. We went out to more than 120 companies throughout the United States and international in order to accomplish this goal. So we are very unique in our property obligations. It is going to be a little bit more costly, and we're working on those numbers right now. Also, in the same time frame, we have our casualty, which is our more localized insurance, and unfortunately, that went through the same process, although the latter is not nearly as significant in the amount of companies. Again, we had the same carrier not willing to do anything more than the base. So going out and identifying the additional umbrella and excess coverage was what was critical to this. Again, we've seen some increase in costs, though, and we will be bringing that back to everybody to make sure you understand how we're going to implement that. But the most important thing is October 1st is today. We're placed and we have insurance coverage for the community, and that's what's most important. So I wanted to bring that up to speed.
I need to say that that is phenomenal, phenomenal, the work that Jeff and Siobhan and Betty and our financial team have put together, getting us insured in this market that is so tenuous because of earthquakes and fires and everything. And I'm very grateful for the work that they've done and that you accomplished the goal.
Yeah,
Thank you
we
so
did.
much, and I'd like to ask for a round of applause.
And I'd like to mention, you mentioned Betty, I'd like to mention Dan Yost, just a yeoman's job for
Yes,
leading this
Dan,
in
how
this
did I
area.
forget
So
Dan? Yeah.
I recognize all the staff worked very, very hard to make this happen, so
Right,
thank you.
yes. Every step of the way, staff was just really, really working, researching, spending long hours. So
I think we have a few more updates that Siobhan wanted to provide.
Good morning, Honorable President, members of the board. I wanted to provide an update on the transportation program. As you know, consultants Fear and Peers have been working to analyze our transportation system, and they're going to present their final study recommendations tomorrow at the Mobility and Vehicles Committee meeting. That is going to be held at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon in the boardroom. And then from that, the VMS staff will take those recommendations and develop an implementation plan, which they also plan to present to the Mobility and Vehicles Committee. And this is going to be during a special meeting on Tuesday, October 29th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. So those are some milestones for that work that is just wrapping up. Also, Pool 4 is adjacent to a construction project which started in mid-September and will continue through the end of the year. This project is replacing the rooftop patio deck coating and removing concrete to upgrade a drainage structure. And the intent is to keep Pool 4 open during this construction project. Work hours are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with occasional Saturday work. But again, Pool 4 should remain open throughout this construction. And we did want to pass on a reminder from the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. They remind us that eliminating breeding sources for mosquitoes is critical. The district has confirmed that there have been West Nile virus positive mosquito samples in 12 Orange County cities. No mosquitoes trapped in Laguna Woods, though, have tested positive for West Nile virus, so that's why we're promoting some awareness. To help eliminate mosquito breeding sources, we encourage residents to dump water from potted plant saucers, to dump and drain other containers filled with water at least once a week, and to clean and scrub bird baths and pet water bowls regularly. This Saturday, the Recreation and Special Events Department will host the annual Harvest Hoedown, It's Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Equestrian Center. This year's event features dancing to the country western band, the Silverados, pony rides, a pumpkin patch photo op area, and beer and wine at the saloon. So if you're looking for a good time on Saturday, please come on down to that event. And just a reminder that Monday Night Football is available for viewing in the club rooms at Village Greens 19 Restaurant and Lounge. Kickoff every Monday night is at 5 p.m., and this free event features happy hour cocktail pricing, weekly food specials, and free chips and salsa. So for all the football fans out there, stop on by. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Next, we have open forum. At this time, the speakers may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation. There is a maximum time limit of 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker may address the board once during this period. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum. Thank you. Cheryl.
Okay, our first speaker is Chris Collins.
Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Chris Collins, 3306Q, and I'm here to once again give you a bit of an update on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of residents experiencing temporary financial crisis. September 28th was National Good Neighbor Day, and we've been talking about good neighbors a lot here with disaster preparedness, so I think this follows right along. This holiday is celebrated annually, and it was first proclaimed in 1978 by President Jimmy Carter. He announced its creation, and these were the reasons, to raise public awareness that good neighbors help to build strong, vibrant communities. They make a difference. While we have no evidence to prove it, President Carter must have had a vision of the foundation of Laguna Woods' work when he proclaimed this holiday. With its motto being neighbors helping neighbors, the foundation demonstrates the value of being good neighbors. Through community support and donations from January through August of this year, the foundation has been able to help our neighbors to provide almost $83,000 in financial assistance to individual residents, $76,000 to support the Meals on Wheels program. We purchased nearly $12,000 worth of grocery cards, and we continued financial assistance for the Alzheimer's daycare program. We purchased special equipment for those with low vision, and we provide transportation for the local food pantry. And we've also funded a new fall prevention initiative here in the village. National Good Neighbor Day is that special occasion to honor those who make significant contributions to creating stronger communities. As a result, the board of the foundation would like to honor all those village residents and clubs who have so generously supported the work of the foundation through their donations. You are the honorees of National Good Neighbor Day. And here's a few things that recipients here in the village have communicated to us in appreciation for the support. The first one is, I can hear, thank you. Getting my hearing aid has changed my life, and I am so appreciative. I'm in my 90s, and I live alone with no income, so you can imagine what this has done for me. Thank you again. And another says, you rescued me when I had no place to go. When I learned the benefits I would receive, I knew you were all angels. Your kindness will remain in my memory and in my heart. So for more information and assistance, there's assistance available through the foundation. Please contact Social Services at 949-597-4267 or the foundation at 949-268-2246 or online, the foundation at comline.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Ray.
Would it be of service, and I have a question, would it be of service to you guys if, like I have hearing aids, for many, many years, and I have several pair that I'm now not using. Would it be a good idea to put that information out if you're not using your old hearing aids, to be able to turn them over to you? They could be worked and reprocessed. That should be a benefit, should it not?
Okay,
They don't have the
they,
ability.
that, the answer that I would give to that is that we'll check with social services and see, because they're the ones that, they really oversee what we,
Okay.
I mean, we do the fundraising, but they make sure that the folks get what they need.
Yeah.
So I'll check with social services and I'll let you know.
That'd be the same thing with glasses,
And the same thing with glasses. Yeah,
because
we
I
work
get
through
a
the
new
Braille
pair every year from
Institute.
the VA.
Right. We work through the Braille Institute with,
Okay.
for eyes, but it's through social services doing that, so we'll check with them. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next, Cheryl?
Okay, our next speaker is Gloria Moldow.
Welcome, Gloria.
Hello, Gloria Moldow, 3503A. I wanted to talk to you today about Clubhouse One, which I understand is in play, and we're waiting for the report from the consultant to find out whether we will do patch, or whether we have to consider a new facility. But I want to present to you an alternative vision for Clubhouse One that is very exciting for me, and I hope that you'll be excited as well. Imagine, this is my vision, you can plug your own in, a village green over there encompassing the whole space, the parking lots behind, on the side, in the front, the building itself. It is a huge footprint. That building could contain everything that would be on our wish list. It could have that indoor pool for recuperation. It could have that little black box theater. It could have new classrooms and offices and a little cafe, and maybe even a convenience store where you could pick up aspirin late in the evening. And the good thing about this vision that I have is that this would be free. It would be totally free, and it might even provide some additional income for our community. That in order to tell you why this is based in reality, I have to give you a little bit of a backstory about where and when I began thinking about this. In the 70s, I taught at Marymount Manhattan College in New York. It was a small women's college, very fine school in the most elite neighborhood of New York City, Upper East Side, a beautiful location, but it was in trouble. The 70s were a bad time for small colleges. The baby boomers were out. The echo hadn't come back, hadn't emerged yet. And a lot of schools closed, especially women's colleges. Some went co-ed, some failed altogether. And in Marymount, that was no different. The infrastructure was failing. We had a performing arts studio that was dangerous to be in. The registrar still entered all the registrations by hand. They didn't have money to update with computers. But Sister Colette found an amazing solution. She sold the air rights to that building. And what happened was the developers took over the airspace, and when they developed this elite, this beautiful apartment structure high above Marymount Manhattan College, they also repaired our infrastructure and gave us what we call today a windfall in cash. So Sister Colette was able to computerize the registration. We got new science labs, we got new classrooms, and we even had money left over to start buying residences so that the school could expand and not just use commuting students to do it. Marymount Manhattan occupied the property from 71st Street to 72nd. It was a third, just a couple of blocks off Fifth Avenue, a very nice neighborhood. And what we did was the building that was put up on top entered on 72nd Street. So people who lived in that building came in that lobby, pressed the button in the elevator, and their first floor was actually the fourth floor. We had the first three floors entering on the 71st side, and they came in on the 72nd Street side. And that saved the college, and it put the college on the map because we were able to make changes that before that were impossible to make. So we have what the most important thing that Marymount had, we have the same thing here. We have location, location, location. We have very desirable for all kinds of possibilities. It may be that there are senior developers out there who would be interested and adding a couple of floors. We know we can go as high as San Sebastian. I don't know what the regulations are for height, but we could add a couple of floors that maybe would be like the towers or studios or two-bedroom luxury apartments that people would be incorporated into our community. Maybe as a community, we would decide that we wanted independent living or even a memory care floor. Or there could be an entrance off the parking lot that mothers that whole shopping center over there, or coming in off El Toro, that would be completely independent of us. The important thing is to explore this. And I want to encourage you to get that process going, to set up either a task force or an ad hoc Clubhouse One committee to see what the possibilities are. The committee should not only have, of course, board members and staff from here and members of the community, but I would encourage you to have outside members also, people who know finance, people who know the senior housing market, what's required here, and even nationally. Because remember, we're not a local destination. We are a national destination. Many people come from all over the country to come to Laguna Woods Village, and this would even put us more sparkling on the map. And this committee would have to decide whether we want to add to our community to have more apartments, sparkle it up, whether we want to have independent living, whether we want it to be totally independent and think outside of the box completely. So I think that needs to be done. And coincidentally, there was an article recently in the Market Urbanism Report that I want to leave with you. Why cities should sell air rights, March 11th, 2019. It says, selling air rights creates financial windfalls for city governments, encourages more efficient land use. The author goes on to say that there are some problems with that people are reluctant to, they're not used to it, but that's the direction that we should go. So I encourage you all to think about it. We could have a Clubhouse One that is a masterpiece, and it could be free.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next speaker is Monica Hobson.
Welcome, Monica.
Good morning. Just because you don't see me in the audience on a regular basis, I do watch you on television on a regular basis, so I like to stay on top of things. Anyway, the question I have today is, we're a nonprofit corporation, I thought, and I want to know justification on the $20 Easy Pay, which was advertised. Where is the money coming from? And that was on the email I got, the weekly.
The $20.
Okay, enroll in Easy Pay, earn $20. And this was in the weekly thing I got on the internet from the email.
I'm going to ask Eileen to come up and address that, please.
Oh,
And I also have for you the
thank you.
write-up.
Our Director of Communications and Marketing is right behind you, and she will come up. Welcome, Eileen. Thank you. Can you explain this? We're all sitting here wondering.
Good morning. She's referring to an article that ran in the Blast last week. And the situation is that Third put together a very good incentive, because when people enroll in Easy Pay, we save money. It cuts down administrative costs. It's an automatic debit out of the checking account. So what it is it's a one-time $20 rebate to the person when they enroll. So the idea is, please enroll so we can save money. So that's what it is. And I think we tried to do an enticing headline to kind of get people excited about it. So you may have misconstrued that, but that's what that is.
Where's the money coming from? What account?
You're saving money.
That's different from earning $20. When
Okay,
you advertise earning $20, I expect to get a $20 bill.
It's credited to your assessment fee. You
It
get a
doesn't say.
discount of that 1 month.
But
It does say in the article.
Even so, if that is the case, we're still nonprofit and the community is not getting that money.
I beg to differ, because you're actually spending less money to collect your assessments. We could, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it offline.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to drag it through a big
And
presentation.
it's only for third?
At the moment, it's for third. United is seriously considering it. And what has happened as a result of the article is that we've received a lot of phone calls from United people who want to do the same thing. But the point is, the finance department is trying to cut administrative costs. As you can imagine, if automatically it just happens every month, it doesn't require a human staff person touching everything. And when it all comes down to the bottom line, you save money. So that's where that came from.
That we're saving money. Thank you, Monica. And we do have the president of United sitting here and from the towers, so they are probably considering a way for them to be able to save money. So thank you, Eileen. Did she leave? Anyway. There she is. I can't see her back there. Okay, who's next, Cheryl?
Our next speaker is Danny Henson.
Welcome, Danny. Yeah.
Hi. I have a quick one about Dwelling Live. But when we first implemented it, I started using it right away, and I like it. But my friend would meet me from outside the village at the golf entrance, and we'd get a call from him that they couldn't scan the email that I had sent him with the scanner. No problem, called in and got that. This happened twice, and I tried to ask the gate ambassador about it, and it was that they don't have the ability or something to scan it there with the new system. This after it's been in for a year, and maybe a few months ago. Over the weekend, sent a pass, came through either gate 1 or gate 2 this time, I'm not sure which entry. They couldn't scan it in, and she had to pull over, call me. Since it's the weekend, you call for gate entry, 3 minutes, no answer. She's sitting there, she calls me back. I talked to a second ambassador, apparently. They had 2 there at the gate, so it must have been 1. And she asked the other person, well, what did you do? Did you scan it? So apparently there may be an educational thing here of letting people in, because that took a long time for my resident to come and for me to have to spend and call and just waiting on hold and then have to deal with it that way. And that's happened 3 times, so I'm wondering, are there ambassadors that need to learn, or do they have the Progressive Insurance fast scanner thing that they just shoot out there? Do they all have that? I don't know, but thought I'd bring it up to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. I can see Siobhan over there nodding her head and taking notes, so I'm sure she will be addressing that. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Juanita Skillman.
Welcome, Juanita.
Thank you. Good morning. Juanita Skillman, 2154N. First of all, I'd like to build just a little bit on what Siobhan said. The mosquito problem is a little bit different this year. We have an AEDES mosquito, which is very small, black and white, and it's an indoor mosquito. Now, they get in through tears in your screen or open windows or whatever, but they are daytime mosquitoes, and they're tiny, and they have a really potent bite. Right now, they're not doing the bad diseases like West Nile, et cetera. But for people who are allergic, and some people are, mosquitoes don't like me, I'm sour, or whatever, they don't bite me. But if they do, you get big red welts, and they're very itchy, and they're a real problem. So it's a different kind of mosquito. And yes, we need to empty the saucers and watch our water sources, et cetera. But you also need to make sure that there's no way they can get into your house, and know that those are around. Secondly, I'd like to start talking about the census. 2020 will be a census year, and it's going to be completely different this year. Instead of enumerators coming around, knocking on your door and filling out forms, every resident will be getting a postcard asking them to go online and self-report. And if they don't, then in April, an enumerator will come around and try to fill out the forms. But as we are doing with our voting. They're changing the way we're doing it. And we're going to be talking about it from now until the first of the year to try to get everybody prepared. And last but not least, there are census takers out there right now in our village, and they're not taking the regular census. They are doing a special enumeration for HUD, for the housing thing. And the questions are very simple, but it's just trying to find out who's living where, how many people, that kind of thing, density and demographics for a housing study. But it is done by the Census Bureau. So they're going to show you a Census Bureau identification. And they are allowed in the village. We work with the government on those. But the big push is going to be coming the first of the year. And I'd also like to mention, if anybody is interested out there, there are jobs, part-time jobs. Orange County has 15,000 jobs for the census that are coming up starting the first of the year. They're part-time. They can last anywhere from a number of weeks to months. And they're everything from enumerators that walk around, and there are data entry operators, and there are shift supervisors and anything. So if you're interested, go to census2020.gov/jobs. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Joe Fiscom.
Welcome, Joe.
Joe Fitzcam, 405D. When something extraordinary happens, I'd like to say something about it. Where we're at with pickleball and paddle tennis and lawn bowling and golf and tennis, we've always worked together with a little committee that goes on every 2 months to see what needs to be done in the various sports. And recently, Tom McRae, Joel Walker, and Sean Anthony have made an unbelievably pleasant experience out of that. When we want to get something done, it almost has eliminated the need for the little committee that gets together. We ask for something, it's completed. We're doing a barbecue one day. They see us with a barbecue, and we got 40-some people. You know, we have an extra grill over if you need it, you know, that type of thing, or offering to bring stuff up and down the hill for us. But whenever we have some type of request, if it be a safety issue or something just needs repaired, it's taken care of immediately. They're just doing a great job, so I just wanted to shout out for that. Also wanted to advocate for something. I believe years ago they used to do like an annual event for our clubs, organizations, sports, or whatever, to get together at maybe a Clubhouse 5 or someplace like that, where people can come in and see what we have in the community. I think it's important for the survival of the clubs, or for their, you know, to be able to present their story, where people may want to participate, they might want to go to some events like the comedy club, but it's almost, you know, funny, but people don't realize we have. I remember one day I had to meet about a dozen people at the shuffleboard court. So I go to the shuffleboard court at Clubhouse 1, and I realized that some people had lived here for 5 and 10 years, didn't know there was one there. They went to Clubhouse 2, where they used to be, you know, 20 years ago. So there are a lot of assets we have as you give to us as the Golden Rain Foundation that I think people should be more aware of, and maybe if it does make a difference if it's a sport or an art or a craft, have the ability to get out there and have people come and see what we do. I believe I'd heard a rumor that was done once upon a time. I've been here 6 years, so it may predate me, but I think it'd be a good idea. I also was a big believer when I tried to make decisions for a company involved people, I tried to figure out who am I going to help and who am I going to hurt. I also begin to judge a lot that way. When people talk to me, what are they telling me? What should I believe? What should I think of them? I know that same scenario. Who are they trying to help and who are they trying to hurt? You know, a lot of people talk about us about being Disneyland. I think we're more like the movie Field of Dreams. You know, people, they built it and they came. The reality of it is people come here to live the dreams they've had before and experience that joy again. People come here to have the joy of experiencing dreams they never had the chance to fulfill before. People come here for the dreams they know they can have in the future and experience that joy. And people know in their quieter times they can sit down and smile and remember the joys and the dreams that came true because of Laguna Woods Village. So I ask, as you make your decisions, I'm sure on some level you do that, always think of every decision, are we enabling those dreams? Are we interfering with those dreams? And just always keep that in consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Our next speaker is Corky Ely.
This is the hardest place to get out. Wait just a minute.
Welcome, Corky.
Those chairs need arms on them.
That's true, they do.
Corky Ely, 24012E, Mariposa West. And I'm a resident for 35 years in here. So I know everything that's been happening over the years, and it really upsets me. And the latest thing that did was when El Toro Water District moved into Leisure World and took over 14.6 acres of ground and built onto our building that isn't even paid for yet and added on to it. And I'd like to know who did it, who let him have it. I have this thing here, this document that came in that we got in 1999 and 98 when the city was formed. And it has the water reclamation facility on here, but it also has the cable TV on here. And there is something going around on this thing that Cortese made you change the name of Leisure World. That's a lie, because she wanted profits from the cable TV. They spent $14 million on this same paper, $14 million to bring Ridgeway and broadband services from North Carolina to take over our cable TV. Before that, it was Rossmore. For 35 years, they were in here. And when she wanted was part of the advertisement fee that they get, which is very hefty in here. And she said she wanted a part of that, but PCM was too greedy, and so were the boards, that they wanted it all for themselves. So they had this idea to change the name of Leisure World. Well, it's not going to work anymore, because there were 625 people that went and hired Steve Rice for Discovery. And on Discovery, he found all the information's here. I made a list of it, what he found, improprieties in Leisure World. Well, they got away with all of this garbage. They sold San Sebastian, the old administration building.
10 seconds, Corky.
Okay, I will finish. I made 4 copies of this for the people, each board member of the 4 corporations, and also a list of what Steve Rice found. And it's going to come out because the federal government is coming in here. They have to come in and investigate Leisure World, because this is a bucket of worms.
Thank you, Corky. You could give those papers to Cheryl. She'll take care of it.
Would you give it to the board members? Only the 3rd United, GRF, and that. And I have the documents at home. Anybody wants to see them, they can have them.
Thank you. Cheryl, who's next?
Our next speaker is Maxine McIntosh.
Welcome, Maxine.
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, I want to mention I'm so grateful for Jeff Parker, our CEO, being so frank in his reports And he's always giving us information that you have probably as board members, but not all of us do. And I think it's good we hear it. Last month, though, as all the budgets were being voted on and finished off in version 4, he mentioned that if it's going to take nearly $50 million to renovate 3 or more clubhouses, the assessments won't cover it. That property will have to be repurposed probably to cover such a high expense. That was good to hear, and right level on the table, I felt. And then today when he talked about, 120, was it, insurance companies they've been investigating? Look how hard staff is working on that, and that's something that you know, but most of us in the community don't, and it's good we know that. It's good we know that. You know, they're really working hard for us. Today I'd like to say that last month at your last meeting, a board member here whom I've admired very much for several years, I consider really a gift to this board, became very critical of Pat English when Pat was referencing our state of California Civil Code, specifically number 4935, just a half-page section that regards closed session meetings. I thought, what is missing here for Pat English to be the recipient of such severe criticism on TV? Then I realized all of you board members may not have received a copy of the Blue Book. My last year on a board was 2017 on United, and this was the copy I got at that time. When each of you has your own copy, you're always able to study any part of it you choose and refer to it during a meeting. This book is reprinted update to include any, is reprinted each year to include any up-to-date items. Last night, in checking again on the half page about executive session board meetings, I discovered that the last item listed seems to indicate, by the way, information missing in your monthly meeting agendas. Item C, the last item on that half page, reads, any matter discussed in executive session shall be generally noted in the minutes of the immediately following meeting that is open to the entire membership. We used to do that. I think somehow that just got lost along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine.
Our next speaker is Roberta Burke.
Welcome, Roberta.
I'm Roberta Burke, 933B, and I've lived in United Mutual for 20 years, seeing numerous changes. Since the creation of our own management company, many quiet behavioral and policy changes on all boards have been taking place, distancing Laguna Woods Village from residents, from boards of directors, management, services, policymaking, and direct communication. I'm here to encourage tweaks to be made, which we talked about before, to our new corporation as well as to GRF to better the atmosphere that has developed and have more sharing of ideas with residents. We should start by considering direct voting for GRF and VMS boards of directors. VMS should allow open board meetings, or at least have town hall meetings 2 to 4 times a year, to allow residents an opportunity to see how board members work with staff and problems that occur, and have an opportunity to have input which they don't have at this time. Does this board provide oversight to management and staff, or just rubber stamp? How can we know if we never have an interchange? How can residents suggest changes and improvements if they never connect with VMS directors? Residents who pay for service and salaries are really totally out of the loop. Residents need more direct contact with that board and boards of directors. Instead, we get less contact and less service. Just recently, a letter to the editor stated that directors cannot get reports or info that they need to make decisions from staff. Please, let's not start that all over again.
That was one of the reasons I was in favor of changing from PCM. Beneficial decisions cannot be made if directors cannot get information they think that they need. Somehow there is a disconnect and residents are on the losing side of input and service. Having the structure of a city is fine, but the culture of the directors and management has to stay that of a village. That is what we are, neighbors living in close proximity to the directors, staff, and our CEO. They must be able to recognize our faces, even if they don't know our names. They must care about our needs and desires as individuals, as well as all of us collectively. The second floor has been closed to us. Heads of department won't necessarily make private appointments for us, and in general, a give and take is less than there was when PCM was here. The ivory tower, and I don't mean that sarcastically, the ivory tower is getting higher with our new CEO at the top and appearing further away from residents' feelings, ideas, and needs. Let's have some togetherness. It can't hurt. And I would appreciate, and I hope you take it seriously, because there is a psychological attitude that has been taking place over these last few years. And most of the residents don't get an opportunity. They may just see this on TV, but they really just don't get an opportunity to have a feel and voice their feelings and opinions. It could save a lot of aggravation by having town hall meetings. Anyway, I would really appreciate very much, so that there are no rumors and bad talk around, if you would at least just clarify at this meeting whether or not directors are having difficulty and records and information is being kept from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberta. Who's next?
Our next speaker is Raina Rothberg.
Welcome, Raina.
Good morning. As of today, Mutual 50 has a new management company. Its name is PMP Management. It is a local California company, and their local office is on Pacifica. So they're just a few short blocks from the towers. And I have written an article about the company, which will be in the Breeze. I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought it would be nice to announce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to know. Cheryl?
That concludes our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, response to speakers. We're going to start with Dawn and go around. Do you have anything?
I'm not really sure that's many down here. I'm kind of curious though on microphone. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I need to catch my thoughts. I would like to remind everyone listening and everyone that from Corky Ely has said the last few visits about the name change. I was on the committee when we changed the name. It was done legally. Everyone in the village voted for it, and we had it copyrighted, and everything was done legitimately. So we are Laguna Woods Village. Then I think it was Joe. Okay. No, I was curious. I can't read my writing. Oh, here, Danny finds the gate, entry gate. I wasn't sure what he was talking about. You can't, his friends couldn't get in by, what was that?
You couldn't scan
Scan what?
the emails they got.
Oh, that's new to me. You can get an email and scan now? I was done. Okay, I'll follow through that with security. That's all right now. I'll go through my notes again. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Yeah, you.
No comment.
No. Bert.
Okay. Juanita, I'd just like to point out, and maybe staff could answer this.
When we talk about mosquitoes, we have a number of flat roofs in our community, and on those flat roofs is a lot of pooling. And I think if you're going to talk about mosquitoes, we really have to address this issue when it rains and we get pooling on top of these roofs, because it lasts there for several days, which is sufficient time for mosquitoes to hatch. And I'm wondering, what is staff doing about this issue? I think it's a good question, looking for an answer. The other thing is, with Roberta Burke, I think your recommendation about a town hall meeting to allow residents to communicate directly with the VMS board, at least on a quarterly basis, is probably a very good idea. I think anything that we can do to enhance communications between staff and their customers, and we are a customer indirectly, but directly with customers, would be a positive thing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I just want to say to Roberta, I agree, communication is always a problem, and we are working on making sure that people get the documents they need to do research. We also, I am very much in favor of town halls, and I think that we'll be pushing ahead more with that through communications. So I'm hoping that you'll come and join us, and let's see what we can do.
Spoken by the chair of Media and Communications, so it looks like it's going to happen. Thank you. Annette.
I'd like to say thank you to Gloria Moldau about I'm looking forward to reading that article on about selling the air rights for Clubhouse One. This is perfect timing to address that. Also, for Juanita Skillman, yesterday, our supervisor, Lisa Barrett, was on television on this day. And if any of you haven't seen that program, I know it comes on YouTube. She had excellent slides and an excellent presentation saying that actually the census rollout is March the 12th, and it actually begins on April the 1st, and then April the 15th is when people will be coming back into the community to follow up who haven't had a response. So if you can see this day for September the 30th and see Supervisor Lisa Barrett's presentation on it, she covers the census, and the individual who is the Orange County Census Manager is there with her extensively, so I do suggest that. To Joe Fitzcam, I loved your last statement about enabling dreams, and thank you. And I believe you're running for GRF, correct? That's correct. All right, thank you. Corky Ely, when we get a copy of your printout that you gave for the president of GRF, I will read that just to let you know. So thank you there. And then as far as Maxine goes, I couldn't agree with you more. I do owe Pat English an apology. I was frustrated, and I can talk to Pat about that later, about my frustration off record. But you're absolutely right. When I saw that, it was very bad behavior on my part. And Pat, I am sincerely apologetic for that.
Thank you, Annette.
You're welcome. Basically, for Rhina, congratulations that you have new management. I know that was very, very important to you. So there you go. Thank you.
Gloria made the comment on Clubhouse One, and she did it with a lot of energy, and she used the word vision, and that really hit me, because in 2009, 10, and 11, in 2009, that's the time that we decided to tear down the old Golf Starter building and build a brand new building, which ended up being the Village Greens. And in that time, there was a little group set up. So what should it look like? How should we do things? And so forth. So the vision, that word was used, and with our architects and the other people. So that's a good time to do something. Maybe we can really take a look at what Clubhouse One really should be looking like as we get move into that sometime from now. Thank you.
Yeah, so my comment, to repeat sort of with Gloria, is we have the Alternative Revenue Cost Sharing Task Force right now, and so I'm sure Jeff has taken note of your suggestion. It seems like a good one. And what Danny said about Dwelling Live, it is a little, I'm not really sure how we're supposed to use Dwelling Live to get people in Gate 12. That's the, right, that's a little bit different. So I think that's really the bulk of the majority of the problem. I don't know, whatever happened with Gate 1 and 2, I don't know about that. But Juanita mentioned the 2020 census and how we have to do things online, and maybe the PC or MAC Club would be interested in helping people do that. And the only other thing was, I guess to reply to Roberta, is that from my perspective, all the records that we need, we're getting from staff.
Yes, in the renewal form for running for GRF, there's an area in there that says specific idea that you had put forth. And I also emphasized the town hall meeting. I think that's extremely important because we need to get that information out to people. We say things over and over again, but it just seems to go over their heads in some cases. In this particular case, we can spend some time and emphasize specific items. Thank you.
I'd like to address, I liked what Gloria Moldau said, and yes, it's a vision, but that's exactly what we need, especially with what our CEO said. We're going to have massive cost increases for our insurance, and I can't speak to it in detail, but in January, we're going to have even more surprises that's going to cost us more as an HOA from Davis Sterling. And so we are going to have to look at visions or ways to make money and increase our reserves. There's just no doubt about it. So staff is helping us work on those visions. And then Joe Fiscum, I haven't met you before today. And unfortunately, GRF directors cannot vote for who sits on this board. But from what I've heard about you, if I could vote, I'd vote for you.
I'd like to thank Gloria Moldau for giving a really good presentation. It's really food for thought. I hadn't really thought of it that way before. But nevertheless, Bert and I still sit here without the document that we requested, and I will still repeat that California Corporate Code 8335 gives us the absolute right to those documents. Thank you.
Oh, we should look at whether or not we conform with what, like at our closed meeting, if we should make a note in our first open meeting.
Oh, yes.
We'll look at that. I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll look at that. That Maxine brought that up. Thank you, Maxine. We just said we would check that out. Thank you. I just need to say, wasn't it interesting this morning? Dreams, and it's about dreams and the vision. I mean, Gloria really set us up for it. That was wonderful. And I know that all of us are, in the back of our minds saying, what ideas do you have for Clubhouse One? And just thinking about that, because that's our next vision to be working on. But the vision, and then Joe with the, what did I write down? Enabling dreams. Remember, to be enabling dreams. And then bringing things down to reality with Roberta saying, hey, what about town halls? And that's something that I know Joan has been talking about, and it's something that Eileen Paulin talks about a lot. We try so hard to find how can we reach out, how can we communicate, with the folks in the village, and I think that you're right to bring it back to us again, that we need to start looking at the town hall plan and how we're doing this, and it's fun to do, and you're able to talk a lot more than you can sitting here at the dais, and the time is running out, and you just need to move along. So thanks, Roberta, for bringing us back to earth, and thank you everybody out there for enabling our dreams. Appreciate it. So where are we next on our agenda? That is the consent calendar. And does anyone have anything they want to take off of it? Okay, if not, then it's approved. Right, Joan? Okay. All right, so now we are on 12A, unfinished business. Entertain a motion to adopt a resolution for the nuisance and harassment policy. This was a September initial notification, 28-day notification for member review and comment to comply with Civil Code 4360, and it has been satisfied.
Okay.
Joan?
It is Resolution 19XX, Harassment and Nuisance Policy. Whereas the Security and Community Access Committee has recognized the need to adopt a harassment and nuisance policy to set forth guidelines for harassment and nuisance complaints. Now therefore be it resolved October 1st, 2019, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the harassment and nuisance policy as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move we accept this resolution. I have to say something.
Yes.
I would like to move an amendment to the actual harassment policy. If you turn to page 6 of 8, under the word harassment, and below the section that starts with physical intimidation, there's a sentence that reads, begins with unreasonable, hostile, and excessive telephone calls. I'd like to add to that telephone calls, comma, emails, comma, texts, comma, social media, etc., about or, and then the rest of it, to a resident, staff, or vendor. I need a second.
We need a second, Judith.
Okay, I'll second that.
I need to vote on the amendment.
Okay, and so, is there any discussion of the amendment before we vote?
Can you please repeat it?
Yes, it should read, as I've put it now with all the words.
Just get me to the right topic, I'm sorry.
Under harassment, page 6 of 8, down under the words physical intimidation, it's actually the third line up from that. That paragraph that starts physical intimidation, the third line up that begins with unreasonable. These are one of the things that harassment includes. And this is the way I'd like it to read. Unreasonable, hostile, and excessive telephone calls, emails, texts, or social media, etc., about or to a resident, staff, or vendor.
Okay, so Joan has repeated this, and it's been seconded, this amendment, and discussion, Jim?
There's the other behavior in there. Do you need to do something with those two words right at the end of that paragraph? Other behavior which the ordinary person would find unreasonable and/or
Threatening. What's wrong with it? I'm not doing anything with that sentence. This is only on the sentence just above it.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't do anything other than that.
Okay.
Got one more.
Bert?
Several things. You know, you look at this and it says ordinary person. Can you please define for me what an ordinary person is? I think that's one thing. The other thing is under enforcement. The board has the discretion to determine which actions are violations of these rules and which actions do not further action by GRF.
We're voting
and again,
on
that's of concern to me because it's nebulous. It's not firm. It's something that could introduce legal action.
Okay, we're voting, excuse me.
Go ahead, Joan.
We're voting on this amendment now. If you want to make another amendment, that's your privilege.
Thank you.
You want to?
Not now.
Not now?
Well, you got it.
Well,
You already got an
Okay,
amendment.
so we'll vote on this one and then see. Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment, which Joan just stated, which starts with hostile, unreasonable. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, are we doing it electronically? I don't see that.
It's there.
What's wrong with this?
Our screen isn't working, so.
Yeah. I don't have a screen that's working.
That screen isn't working.
You can give me your verbal vote and I'll record it.
Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Thank you, it's unanimous.
No.
Okay, so now we are,
Nope, discussion
oh,
before you go to the main.
Discussion.
we had the discussion on the amendment already.
Okay, right. So now I want to make another potential amendment.
Oh, another,
okay.
okay.
Or clarity. Mine has to do with nuisance, and it may or may not be covered in the paragraph that Jim just described, nuisance behavior. We have a situation.
Page.
Oh, that would be at the end of 6 of 8, the bottom of the page.
6 of 8.
But nuisance on the page 5 of 8 is mentioned in section 3 under conditions. And unfortunately, they named those 5 conditions, and what needs to be there, what's happening on the buses because of the age of some of our community members, people will get on the buses that are wearing either Depends or disposable undergarments that are filled and reek with either urine or feces. And sometimes it's those bodily materials are being left on the seats. But sometimes the urine and the smell is so bad, the bus drivers have difficulty driving. The drivers have gone to the management company and they said, no, you cannot refuse to pick that person up. And so the drivers are having difficulty with this. So I think I sent it to Siobhan and one other person. I went online to look up to a legal firm to find out what of our legal ramifications would be if do we have to pick up people that have these bad odors and unhealthy excretions on their body. And so they were going to look into it, and I haven't heard anything back. So, but I think this would be a perfect place to put it, and either back under nuisance, put a nuisance under health and safety, maybe included in there, where the person has unhealthy bodily issues. Sometimes it's just bad odor, nothing you can do about that. But the fact that it's interfering with the safety of the driver and then other residents demanding to get off the bus because of that individual and having to get off on stops that weren't their destination and it's becoming more and more of a problem is what I'm being told. And I was going to bring it up tomorrow at the meeting, but now that, I see this policy, that, it's not harassment itself, but since they have nuisance under here,
So
can we fit that in somewhere?
How about under nuisance on 3?
what page, okay, and Annette is saying possibly under health. I'm not so sure that it just isn't covered in this little paragraph, just what it says, when you think about what you just said, Judith, because what it says, it's on investigating nuisance to determine if a nuisance is taking place. Staff evaluates the behavior, and bus drivers are staff, evaluates the behavior, determines if the behavior is deemed reasonable or unreasonable to an average reasonable person. Staff will inform the reporting parties to call the security department for documentation. I don't know whether
And that hasn't, it's tried to be addressed through the proper chain of command, and this has been going on for months now. And so it's not being addressed,
Okay.
so I thought if it,
Okay, so let's look then
Yeah,
and
let's
see
find
if
out
if
it's covered
help.
under
What
this.
page is the help?
Okay, may I?
Sure. go ahead.
Okay, it's agenda item 12A, page 5 of 8. And what I was thinking, Judith, after listening to you, because there is a huge change going on, and we even see it now with our pool notices for things in the pool. So under health and safety, I was going to say maintain containment of bodily fluids, and
That
just leave
would
it
help.
at that,
Okay.
basically, something like that anyway, but.
that would give the bus driver some resource. yes, you know, what to do.
Just as, okay, you want me to make amendment? All right, excuse me.
Can we talk about it first?
Well, I think I make an amendment and then we talk about it to the amendment. What would you like to do?
Because I'm thinking and there's an easier place to put it in.
Oh.
That was a little broader, if you put it in the first paragraph under nuisance, where we just say recreational or other facilities or amenities, then it sort of covers, you know, it might be broader.
Or amenities,
Yeah, I think the problem is that all that's addressing is facilities, and we want it to also address other amenities.
So where are you, Diane?
On page, sorry, right, 5 of 8, 3 lists conditions, and that first paragraph that talks about nuisance, no resident may do blah, 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 and they're just using common recreation or other facilities and amenities within the community and create a circumstance which discourages, prevents, or otherwise inhibits the peaceful use of such facility or amenity by residents and their guests.
And the bus is considered a facility.
Right, a facility or an amenity, but that way
Yeah,
at least it's
right.
covered.
But do we need to be more specific to get staff to do something?
Well-
I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, I've got like 3 people, and I think it's Ray, then Pat, then Annette.
First off, I think we need to contact the ADA. They can look into this matter. That's number one. They can then make classifications that you cannot do it. Specific things can be determined by them, but that has to go through the ADA first.
Okay, thank you. Pat?
To me, it seems as if on page 6 of 8, it would come under this. Other behavior which the ordinary person would find unreasonable and/or threatening.
That's harassment.
That's
under harassment.
Does it matter?
That's not
This is
harassment.
nuisance.
Well, it's both nuisance and harassment then.
Maybe you just need that law.
It's a little bit of each.
That exact line to go over under
Yeah.
nuisance as well.
Yeah. Okay,
That
Annette?
would cover it all.
Basically, this is a health thing. So not only would you, like you mentioned ADA, I would first think of the CDC. Okay, basically, but because I do believe that this is health and safety, and this does happen at different clubhouses. You know, it happens in the village as people, so I just think it should be addressed under health and safety. And perhaps if this is addressed now, we can always come back and amend this or readdress it, but I think it should go under health and safety number 4. So I am going to make a motion to amend the harassment and nuisance policy right now to include under the resolution that hopefully gets adopted on today, under number 3, nuisance, under item 4, health and safety, that it first say, before it says residents who fail to pick up after dogs, residents maintain containment of their bodily fluids. I think that needs to be in there.
It's more than that.
Can I?
Do you need some additional, you need some additional language? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Joan, have you got language on that?
Trying to, it's hygiene, yeah.
Yeah, it is
It's not
hygiene.
just, it's not just body. Help.
Hygiene and bodily fluids.
Okay.
Bodily fluids, right?
You know, it is, it's bodily fluids.
It's hygiene
Maintain
also.
control
Of the personal hygiene and bodily fluids.
of personal hygiene. Well,
Containment.
that gets to deodorant. Okay, we're talking about worse than that, but that's personal.
Hygiene and bodily fluids.
Under odors.
Of bodily functions and odor?
Fluid. Uncontrolled hygiene.
Fluids and,
Refuse.
Okay.
Would you like to just have us research this and rewrite it and bring it back for a vote?
Maybe
And
so.
then, at the same time, we can check with the ADA. I just
Social
think
services.
I withdraw my amendment.
Yeah, so if somebody make a motion that we have staff research and come up with some language and we can discuss it, so we,
Yvonne's got a comment.
I did want to mention that Director Troutman brought this to our attention about 2 weeks ago, and we are researching the best way to address this. There are civil liberties issues, so it's not quite as cut.
Right, and the ADA, and just all of that. We just really need to, thank you. And I know that Don had something, Don,
Oh, I was going to make the motion to rewrite that and use our attorney and make sure it's legal that we aren't
yes,
sued.
really good point, really good point.
I'll second his motion.
And Bert's next, hang on there.
Again, twice, we used the term "the normal person," and we use a term, "the ordinary person," and I think that that is so ambiguous. It should be said, "the majority of persons" in both cases, okay, as opposed to a normal or ordinary person, which has no meaning whatsoever.
So I think we're all
average,
sitting here saying that we need to have our attorney look at this.
I think they did.
What's ordinary? So Pat, yes.
Yes, I would like to amend John's, was it Don or Bert's?
Joan says there's
motion.
not a motion on the floor.
Oh, there's not a motion on the floor?
No.
Well, I'd like to put a motion then that we send it back to staff, first of all, to be rewritten, and then it goes to the attorney before we deal with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'll
exactly.
second.
And a second, Judith? Okay. All right, we can have discussion now. Diane?
So I think this has already been through our attorney, so I was wondering if maybe we want to pass it as it is and then make any amendments later to add the bodily fluid issue or something else, because I think that
that's
this
right,
is
that's
something
right.
that's significant that we want to get passed, so there's something on the books.
I see Siobhan nodding her head, so, okay, I'll go with you making a motion.
Well, we've got
We have a motion.
Oh, we have,
Would have to vote it down.
on what Pat said, which is to move to have staff rewrite. Now, we need to vote that down and then pass this, and then
Right.
on the condition that it be refined.
refined to include these matters that we're talking about, right?
So yes, but there's a motion on the floor.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor that Pat made, and so all those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Everybody, so, okay, so the motion fails. Now I need a different motion. So Joan,
I move that we pass the harassment and nuisance policy on the condition that the entire policy be revisited with the purpose of refining and, refining and defining.
Health and safety.
and restating.
And restating certain issues that have come up.
And-
Too big.
Okay, and Ray,
I'd second it, but I'd like to add, there has to be a time period. That's all. That's all. It's good what you said, but a time factor needs to be done within 2 weeks or 3 weeks
Next
or whatever.
meeting.
so by next meeting, Siobhan? Okay, so Joan is,
By
So,
next meeting,
okay,
just add those words. Did you get that, Cheryl? Cheryl.
That would give us
Cheryl,
plenty
would
of
you
time.
please
Yeah.
repeat that motion so all of us can be on board here?
Okay, the motion was to approve the nuisance and harassment policy with the condition that staff would change the health safety portion of the policy and bring it back to the next meeting.
Oh,
No,
not,
that's
Joan
not-
says no one,
It's more than that, possibly, that staff would look at
possible changes.
possible changes for refinement or definition or tightening it to make it more exact, is all I'm saying. But throughout, it's not just one section.
Okay, staff and legal counsel.
Yeah, okay.
So staff and legal counsel
By next.
by next meeting. So Cheryl, I hope we haven't got you totally confused because we're sitting here being kind of
If I can
confused.
clarify, for all of the changes mentioned, such as legal and health, and the words mentioned, like average, reasonable, normal, so all of those items that were mentioned.
So I'd like to ask, no,
Let's
I don't
just-
need an amendment on this or anything. I just would like to ask Joan and Judith and anybody else who'd like to join in to meet with Siobhan sometime in the within the next day or so and go over what we think and where staff is, just get us up to date. Okay? Okay, Joan?
Agreed.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Everybody, and somebody over there had something. Okay, so are we ready to vote?
Do we have a second?
Okay.
Yes, we do.
This is the motion.
Ray
What?
seconded.
Oh, Ray seconded it. Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. And before we go to 12B, there was one piece in the consent calendar that we talked about that we wanted to add, and we skipped over it. And Annette, would you just state
Yes.
that, please? Looking at
Okay.
the consent calendar.
Okay, when we were looking at the consent calendar, item B, where it says, we need to add the word executive board member when we say, because we just discussed this and it wasn't in here. Consistent with its statutory obligations, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other executive board member reviewed and approved Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of August 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did we say executive?
Or no, this is for, we didn't? Okay, never mind, I apologize.
No, because Pat's our other person.
Right.
You're thinking of something else.
You're
I'm thinking
thinking
of
of
something
something
else, I
else.
apologize.
Signatures.
Yes.
So you
okay.
think, okay.
Thank you, I apologize.
Okay, is there anything else up there
No.
that you needed to look at? Okay, so now where we are is unfinished business B. Entertain a motion to adopt a resolution to amend the facilities use policy to comply with Civil Code 4515. And this was a September initial notification, 28-day notification for member review and comment to comply with Civil Code 4360. It has been satisfied. Joan?
Resolution 90-19XX, Golden Rain Foundation Facility Use Policy, Public Interest Events, Civil Code 4515. Whereas California Civil Code 4515, Assembly for Political Purposes, went into effect on January 1st, 2018. And whereas Civil Code 4515 expresses the legislative intent to ensure that members and residents of common interest developments have the ability to exercise their rights under law to peacefully assemble and freely communicate with one another and with others with respect to common interest development living or for social, political, or educational purposes. And whereas Civil Code 4515 precludes the governing documents of common interest developments from prohibiting members or residents from those activities prescribed in 4515. B15. Whereas on March 6, 2018, the board approved Resolution 90-1811 and the Facility Use Policy / Resolution, Civil Code Section 4515, to comply with the requirements of Civil Code Section 4515. And whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department identified the need for revisions to the Facility Use Policy / Resolution, Civil Code Section 4515, and whereas the revisions are reflected in the Golden Rain Foundation Facility Use Policy, Public Interest Events, Civil Code 4515, now therefore be it resolved October 1st, 2019, that the Golden Rain Foundation Board of Directors hereby adopts the revisions to the Golden Rain Foundation Facility Use Policy, Public Interest Events, Civil Code 4515, and resolve further that Resolution 90-1811, approved March 6, 2018, is superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move we approve this resolution.
A second, Joan?
Who seconded?
And Diane seconded. Oh, Pat seconded, okay.
I think we should find a way to put 4515 in there one more time.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Okay.
I just want you to notice that this applies to public interest events. That's a change in the title. just so you remember that that's what we're talking about.
Discussion.
The,
Cheryl. Oh, I'm sorry.
okay.
Annette?
The only thing I had hadn't to do with the resolution per se. It had to do with the item 5 of 12 on the agenda item 12B, page 5 of 12, number 7, to add, after the word and, to add /or, where they talk about the event may be immediately terminated upon discovery of food and beverages being consumed during the event and/or if the responsible resident is not in attendance. That was the only thing I came up with.
Number what was that?
Agenda item 12B, page 5 of 12, number 7, the second line, after the word and, put a /or.
Being present during the event and/or if the responsible resident.
Correct.
Why or?
Why or?
Why or?
It
Well,
just
they
means-
could do it, because right now, it says consumed by the event and if the responsible resident is not in attendance. I put and/or if the responsible resident is not in attendance. In other words, the responsible resident needs to be in attendance, period.
Number 7 on page 5 of 12.
Mm-hmm.
Page 5 of 12, number 7.
It's also number 3.
Number 3.
Okay, we can leave it then, if that's what you'd like. If you think it's covered in number 3, I think it just spelled it out more in number 7.
Any more discussion on that? Joan thinks it's and says it, and Annette is saying we need an or with it and or. Anybody else on that?
That's Jeff or Sean.
That's your own.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so Siobhan want to say anything?
The intent was for item number 3 to cover that.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so Cheryl, I don't see any other hands up here, so who do we have?
I have a request from Mary Stone.
Welcome, Mary.
Good morning, Mary Stone, 356C. Yes, in looking at the use policy, there's a couple of items that I think are very important for you to understand. Number 2 on page 5 of 12, it talks about submitted no more than 10 business days nor less than 4 business days in advance of the date of the use of the facility. That, if, like our United Neighbors, a new club that was formed, where we had our Meet the Candidates, we paid for our room, but you need time to get flyers out. You need time to advertise. If you're having a public meeting, it's not like you're talking to the neighbor next door. This is for a public interest event. You need time for advertising. Also, it is limited to 2 hours, which is fine because no setup is allowed whatsoever. No furniture, meaning no chairs, no equipment, which means no microphones. So that too is stated here. You know, the lack of food and all, that's not the big thing. If you have a public interest event and you're going to have, like we did, a town hall forum for the interest of the community, you need to be able to have time to advertise, and because of the age of the community, they need to be able to sit down, and you need a microphone.
Just point of
So-
order.
Mary, hold on a second. Do you want to explain it?
Try. I think your event was a club event because it is a club that's going to be doing, okay. If you are a club, this does not apply.
We did form a club in order to get access to the club room and
Correct.
also to be able to advertise. That's why we formed the
This
club.
applies when we invite people from the outside, for example, our
political.
congressman to come, and this does not apply to clubs. This under Civil Code 4515, it allows people who are
Political candidates.
political people outside of the village to come on.
No, it's
But
typically
it-
written
If
for
a
that.
club, this is not a.
We formed a club in order to have
Yes.
access to the low-cost advertising. Without being a club,
she's
we
missing
would
the
have had
point.
to pay a lot more.
You
We
are
didn't
a
have the
club,
money.
so you're not
You're a
under
club.
this.
Well, we will disband the club, don't worry about it, because,
You don't
We're
have
not
to.
worried
We're not
about it.
asking
We're
you
telling
to.
you
This
but
says-
I'm saying
that
that
this is
it's
for-
very difficult to meet
But this
these
does not apply
restrictions.
to what you formed, Mary.
This does not apply to our
This
clubs.
does not apply, because a club, this is not for clubs. This is for outside
It's
public interests.
Yes, and basically, it is for outside public interest, and this is something that was written especially for that, to control political gatherings. Okay, so anybody else? Do we have anybody else, Cheryl? No one else? Anybody up here? So, all those in favor of the motion? Thank you so much, unanimous. We are on 12C, entertain a motion to approve increasing the student parking pass fee for non-resident students who take Saddleback College Emeritus Institute effective spring semester 2020 enrollment. And this is a September initial notification, 28-day notification for member review and comment to comply with Civil Code 4360 has been satisfied. So I'm entertaining a motion. after
Resolution
Joan reads.
90-19XX, whereas the Saddleback College Emeritus Institute provides educational services to residents and non-residents of Laguna Woods Village, and whereas a concern was raised that non-residents use the equipment and facilities during class time at no charge, while the residents pay monthly assessments to upkeep GRF property, and now therefore be it resolved October 1st, 2019, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby implements a student parking pass fee of $50 per semester, $30 for summer semester for non-resident students who take Saddleback College Emeritus Institute courses in Laguna Woods Village, effective with the spring semester of 2020 enrollment. And resolved further that such fees shall be used to defray the operational and administrative costs and shall be collected during the time of student gate pass distribution. And resolved further that Resolution 90-10-31, adopted May 4th, 2010, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move we accept this resolution.
All right,
Birch
All right.
seconded.
Bert seconded. Any discussion up here? All right, Don?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
On this, that the administrative costs shall be collected during the time of student gate pass distribution. What's that? When do they actually collect the money?
They get their passes ahead of time
Where?
when they register.
At the college?
No, here. There's a registration here. Is that correct?
No, they registered
In
here
the
about 2
rooms?
weeks ahead of time, and it's right here in the,
Pine Room, is it, or Elm
well,
Room?
I believe it might be the Elm Room, but there's a little sign on the door as you come down this corridor, and it just tells you where to go to pick up your emeritus pass.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
I
but it's
wasn't aware
done,
of
it's
that.
done locally right here. Any other questions? Okay, then it's time for a vote. If there's nothing, no one outside. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Oh, we ready to vote? Okay, then I call the vote. Everybody in favor? All right, so it's unanimous? No, Pat voted for it. Okay, Bert, did you vote for it? Did you vote for this? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so the only vote that's missing, it's unanimous except for Beth. It stepped out. Okay. On to the next now, which will be, so it passed unanimously. There was no opposition. Now we're on to new business, which is to entertain a motion to introduce a resolution for revisions to the GRF wedding policy. The October initial notification must be postponed 28 days for member review. Okay, Joan?
Resolution 90-19XX, GRF Wedding Policy Revision. Whereas at the September 12, 2019 Community Activities Committee meeting, staff recommended to approve amendment to the current GRF wedding policy to make the 1, resident rate applicable to weddings and/or wedding receptions for residents, and 2, the exception rate applicable to weddings and/or wedding receptions reserved by a resident on behalf of a non-resident, limited to only siblings, children, parents, and grandchildren. And whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department manages the reservation services with approximately 18,000 bookings per year, and whereas in 2017, weddings were limited to residents and immediate family members, yielding 6 bookings. And whereas in 2018, the policy was amended to allow weddings for extended family and friends, which yielded 19 bookings. And whereas weddings and/or wedding receptions are taxing on both the facility and staff, as non-residents make up the majority of attending guests, and the celebrations often end late in the evening, extending past 10 p.m. And whereas revenue collected in 2018 for all weddings and/or receptions was $1,500, and whereas amending the policy allows staff to charge the exception rate for a majority of weddings, increasing revenue depending on the number of weddings. For example, a 6-hour wedding at Clubhouse 2 in the main ballroom would generate $2,007 in revenue. And now, therefore, be it resolved, October 1st, 2019, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces approval of staff recommendation to approve the amendment to the current GRF wedding policy to make the 1, resident rate applicable to weddings and/or wedding receptions for residents, and 2, the exception rate applicable to weddings and/or wedding receptions reserved by a resident on behalf of a non-resident, but limited to only siblings, children, parents, and/or grandchildren. And further resolved that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move we accept this resolution for discussion purposes, but postpone the final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360.
All right, do I have a second? All right, Ray?
I have a question.
Okay, Joan?
I don't understand, and maybe if, Brian, if you're here, on the whereas, what does it mean yielding 6 bookings or yielded 19 bookings? If you could just explain that to me.
Morning.
Good morning.
So you're referring to the...
To the resolution itself.
Okay.
The third whereas and the fourth whereas.
Yeah, so in 2017, weddings were only allowed to be booked for residents and their immediate family members, yielding 6 bookings.
What does that mean, yielding 6 bookings? 6 times?
Yeah, 6 weddings.
Only 6 weddings?
Only 6 weddings.
Okay.
And then in 2018, it was revised again to allow extended family members and friends, and that's when it yielded 19 weddings.
Okay, that was right. Thank you.
That's for the,
Per
for the
year,
year,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. And then I believe what this is trying to say, Joan, is that in 2018, for those weddings, only $1,500 was collected. So basically, what it's doing to cover the costs, so members, because we as members are subsidizing the weddings of other members, family members, and we didn't want to have that happen in the village. Is there any more discussion? All right, Cheryl?
I have a request to speak from Juanita Skillman.
Okay.
Juanita Skillman, 2154N.
Hello, Juanita.
I think that the last whereas, when you're doing a resolution lasts until it's superseded or left, but it may be on the books forever. And to put in the example of the 6-hour wedding at Clubhouse 2 in the main ballroom would generate this amount, that you need to put something in there that said at the present rate, to give numbers that may not be acceptable a year from now, 3 years from now, whatever. Either put in a date or, at the present exception rate.
Okay. So- I believe that is just an example, but Beth, now that you're back, would you like Brian to speak on this?
Current rates.
I'm trying to catch up with where
Okay.
you all are.
So I think Brian should speak on this to see if this is the 2018 rate, in terms of the 2007, the example. The example that Juanita is addressing, when she talked about the whereas, and we say here, basically, for example, and it's just an example, a 6-hour wedding at Clubhouse 2 in the main ballroom would generate $2,007 in revenue. Is that in 2018 revenue, the exception rate? Is that what we're discussing? That's what's
That
quoted there?
example is the current rate that we have for 2019 on the
Okay,
books.
so the example for 6-hour wedding at Clubhouse 2 in 2018, that's all we'd have to say, in the main ballroom would generate $2,007 in revenue, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, thank you. So do we need an amendment?
It's called a
have a
Scrivener.
Do we need to? Does this even require?
Can it be a
it?
Scrivener?
Okay, so we've read it. Entertain a motion. Joan, you read it.
Did you make a motion?
Make an amendment then. Okay, I move we amend that whereas to, example, to say in 2018,
the main ballroom.
Comma, for example.
2008,
Well, okay, the current, whatever the current, it should be 19, shouldn't it?
Right.
In 2019,
18.
comma,
Sorry.
for example, a 6-hour wedding at Clubhouse 2 in the main ballroom would generate $2,007 in revenue. So we just added a year.
Okay.
Correct.
I second it.
Okay.
Vote.
All those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. That was unanimous.
All right.
And.
I make a motion that we accept, or did you already make a
It's
motion?
been
Okay.
moved and seconded that we,
Um,
for discussion,
So now we're ready for discussion on the motion.
further discussion, okay.
Further.
Okay, then let's vote.
Okay, anybody? Anybody out there, Sharon? Nobody?
Let's vote.
Well, if there's no discussion, then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, that was 12B. We are now on
12C.
14, committee reports.
Wait a minute, 13B.
Oh, we did.
That
oh,
should have
we
been
did.
13A.
Oh, right, that was A. We have to see. I'm just skipping right along here. You never know.
Ready for lunch.
Today.
going ahead
I know.
got us a year back.
Right, here we go. So we are now on 13B, entertain a motion to introduce a resolution for Clubhouse 2 open space. And this is an October initial notification, and it must be postponed 28 days for member review and comment to comply with Civil Code 4360. Joan.
Resolution 90-19XX, Clubhouse 2 open space. Whereas at the September 12th, 2019 Community Activities Committee meeting, staff recommended to authorize the Recreation and Special Events Department addition of the open space area adjacent to Clubhouse 2 to the rental agreement for the clubhouse. Whereas on July 11th, 2019, the CAC approved making the open space area adjacent to Clubhouse 2 a rentable space and requested that the GRF Finance Committee establish rental pricing for the space. And whereas on August 22nd, 2019, The GRF Finance Committee reviewed and discussed the CAC's recommendation, and whereas the Finance Committee authorized making the space rentable under the following two conditions. One, additional review by staff be conducted to ensure no liabilities will be associated with allowing reservations at this location. And two, that the potential increase in facility usage does not conflict with current City of Laguna Woods parking ordinances. And whereas staff researched and analyzed the two items and determined that the potential increase in facility usage may not meet city parking requirements, since the parcel is zoned open space - recreation OSR, and as such could potentially require a parking study to be conducted and/or the provision of additional parking to support the proposed rental of the open space area. And whereas usage of the open space is increasing as residents become aware of its location and usability, and whereas including the park and the Clubhouse 2 rental agreement would enable the Recreation and Special Events Department to manage the open space's use and minimize conflict that may arise from two parties wanting to use the space at the same time. And whereas in addition, it would make Clubhouse 2 more marketable and desirable for residents. And whereas during the 2021 budget preparations, the rental fee for Clubhouse 2 would be recalculated and adjusted to include the open space area, potentially increasing per reservation revenue. Now therefore, be it resolved, October 1st, 2019, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces approval of staff recommendation to authorize the Recreation and Special Events Department addition of the open space area adjacent to Clubhouse 2 to the rental agreement for the clubhouse. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move we approve the resolution, but postpone its final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360.
Do I have a second? Judith?
I'll second it, but I also wanted to speak.
And then, John, you want to be the first to talk
Yeah.
to Judith?
I think we need some clarification. The reason for this resolution is to avoid problems such as whether the city's going to put us down because there are not enough parking places, or whether we can have two events at the same time in conflict. Those two things are a problem. So they're mentioned in here, but it is not a problem if we pass the resolution. The resolution is to include the space as part of the reservation, a reservation, so that, just to clarify.
Okay, that was pretty much what my question was, is to ask Brian if the revenue outweighs the potential problems, and do you see any other problems than the parking issue?
It won't be a problem with part of Clubhouse 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Because it won't be added.
Yeah,
So
it's
if
not
the
a problem.
residents can hear
Yes.
from Brian, I think that would be good.
Well, the parking is a definite concern. Initially, we wanted to make it a rentable space, which the Finance Committee would have to come up with what that fee would be, since we currently don't have any outdoor space that's rentable. However, after reviewing the city ordinances when Clubhouse 2 was rebuilt, in addition to when the pickleball was built, we may run into a situation where we do not meet their requirements in regards to parking spaces available. So, but we do want to have a control system in place because a lot of people do utilize that park. For example, we had a few weddings on there where they didn't pay anything and they just came in, set up chairs, and they utilized that park space because right now it's not tied to any type of reservation process. So we do want to have it part of the clubhouse, so we have some control and management over that area.
Thank you.
Okay, Ray, was your hand up? No? No. Okay, anybody else? Wait a second up. Okay, Cheryl.
We have a request to speak from Mary Stone.
Welcome, Mary.
Here I am again. I'm not planning on a wedding. Mary Stone, 356C. This is a park area, and it seems to me that the park should remain open for general use. And if there is a special event, then I can understand blocking it off for a special event for a short period of time. But most of us consider that as a park. We don't consider it as rental space. And if we have to rent the space to have a picnic or to go there for lunch while we look at the beautiful view, I think we got, that's going a little too far with revenue gathering. I can understand reserving it for a wedding or something like that, particularly if we're only going to have maybe 6, 10 a year. But it should not be considered rentable space more than that special event.
I think I have two attaboys sitting on the other side of me for what you just said, Mary, because you just really said, I think, what we were thinking with this. I'm going to go to Annette and then Joan.
We are not trying to get additional revenue. That is not the concept. The concept was this eliminates the additional increase in parking usage, causing no conflict with the current City of Laguna Woods policy. It is a passive park. You can go there and sit up and have a sandwich, bring your lunch, and enjoy it. I go there when my kids come in from out of town and throw around, a ball and just have a great time. But what we did was we tied it in with the clubhouse too for rentable, because those people that were renting it for a wedding, if they were going to use, they'd like that green space to be used on that day for a wedding, they already had the parking spaces available to them, so it would not be an increase for the City of Laguna Woods. We wouldn't be violating them. We already had the parking spaces available in Clubhouse 2 for the wedding, so it was a perfect marriage. Other than that, it's not available to rent. It is just there for the members. But if somebody does have a wedding in Clubhouse 2, there is no, like Brian said, he wouldn't be surprised by somebody setting up a canopy. We would know that if 18 times during the year, if that is such for us that it's used for a wedding, then 18 times during the year they have that option. They might not even exercise that option. But that is the only thing. We really wanted to make sure we were adhering to the City of Laguna Woods' ordinances. That's the reason we did it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, just to emphasize what Annette said, it is not just a rentable space, so you can go out and have a cup of coffee, enjoy the scene, whatever.
Judith.
Okay. The two things. The first thing is, because of the potential parking issue, that's why back in the day, I was all for having the pickleball on this side of Moulton. Now, that's all said and done, but we foresaw this potential problem. Calling Mary's attention down to the seventh whereas, I can understand staff's concern to minimize conflict, because as a free space, sometimes there's more than one family that wants to have a family reunion out there. This just allows staff to manage that use and minimize conflicts. So I'm all for that because of that
Right.
whereas.
Right, it just gives staff options to be able to schedule, and it comes as a package with Clubhouse 2, and yet it really remains a passive park. If someone decided maybe they would want to have an outside wedding there, and then they have to do all their own setup and all their own whatever in the park, but then they've already rented the package, Clubhouse 2, they could have their reception up above in Clubhouse 2. So it kind of would work out really nicely that way. Okay, so we need to vote on this.
Two more speakers.
Oh, two more speakers, sorry about that.
Okay, I call up Juanita Skillman.
Hi, Juanita.
Me again. First of all, I take exception to the word open space. It has been designated by GRF as a passive park, and I think it needs to say passive park every place in this resolution where it says open space. And it's not specifically designated for weddings. You can have a family reunion or whatever there. So I think that reading the whole resolution, it does not limit it just to weddings, which otherwise I have no problem with the resolution, but I think we do need to specify that it is our passive park, not just an open space.
I think that's a correction we should make. It's just a matter of changing open space to passive park. That clarifies it and identifies it. It's called a
It's a
passive
city.
park.
But no.
It's a city zoning. We can't change it. It's city zoned at open space recreation.
Yeah, but we set it up in GRF as a passive.
For our identification purposes, it's called passive park.
Okay, thank you. Staff's going to verify that.
Brian, did you want to speak to that? Are you okay? All right, he's okay.
Passive space.
Okay, so.
Passive space. I'm sorry.
So what are we doing with it? Open space, passive park?
We're going to verify the proper
Okay,
term.
so staff will check on that.
And that's a scrivener's, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I call up Maxine McIntosh.
Okay, if I'm following this correctly, you're not talking about just weddings, you're talking about any event in Clubhouse 2, all right? Do remember that you made the outdoor autiere at Clubhouse 2 a part of the rental of Clubhouse 2 main lounge because of the noise between the two. That was very wise. Couldn't run two activities at the same time if there was a band or dancing or anything. The difference here is at Clubhouse 2, hardly anybody ever used that side of the building. It was so hot. It was always in full sun with a lot of reflection off all those glass windows. So you made a better purpose out of it, where the passive park has been in use all along extemporaneously. That's what it is, extemporaneously. And since you, for some reason, removed the furniture from the patio next to the drop-in lounge, all those people that like to sit out there and talk with their friends and so forth are now using that passive park for their snacks and their lunches. So that would be a real inconvenience to them because they've lost the outdoor space at the drop-in lounge. And I hope you will reconsider this. I see people there. I'll see a small group of people go in and they'll start these Tai Chi exercises, whatever they're called, just a small group of them. And then others will join. I joined one time just to see if I could do it. And it's nice. It's nice to see the extemporaneous things they do. And they move around with the shade. There's shade always in some area of that passive park, and they'll move themselves to where there is the shade on the days that are too warm. So I would not be in favor of this. I hope you will consider reversing, going ahead with this at this time. Thank you.
Maxine, I'm going to ask, Joan, would you like to be the person to clarify this for Maxine?
Yeah, I'll try. What'd you say?
Okay, well, let me jump in here and explain. We're suggesting to make it a rentable space packaged with, when you rent Clubhouse 2, you get the outside lounge and you get the usage of the passive park. Other than that, it's a passive park. We're not taking it away from anybody. What we're doing is we're getting a little bit of control over it for somebody that just decides, oh, look, this is a park. I'm going to come in and set up my Easy Up and have a wedding or, whatever. And we can't really be having those big things happening because it is a passive park. And it becomes an area where you can have a wedding or your family reunion or something when you rent Clubhouse 2 and you get the whole package. So we're not taking it away from the Tai Chi folks or anybody that likes to come and look at the best view that we've got here in Laguna Woods. Okay?
Makes sense.
You could restrict the use of the passive park at Clubhouse 1.
I call for the question.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there anybody else? Nobody else?
No discussion after the question's been called.
Okay, okay, so,
We have to vote on the calling of the question.
Yeah.
Two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote.
oh,
Okay, vote for,
Oh, okay.
all those in favor.
all those in favor of call the question? Okay.
Call the question.
Okay, so we've called the question, and the question is, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, thank you.
Postpone.
So now we really are at committee reports. Report of the Finance Committee, financial reports, Director Phelps.
Okay. Cheryl, I'm ready when you're ready. And I apologize in advance, I have a cold. But it's time for the review of GRF's August 31st, 2019 preliminary financial statements. There we go. Slide 1, through the reporting period ended August 31st, 2019, total revenue from GRF from all sources was $29.8 million, and total expenses were $27.8 million, resulting in net revenue of $2 million. Next, next slide. On slide 2, we keep a close eye on the operating portion of our financial results. As you can see on this slide, the operating fund, without depreciation and unrealized gains, shows a loss of just over $155,000. Slide 3, this chart shows the income statement from slide 1, but adds a column to compare the figures to budget. You can see that GRF ended the period better than budget by $273,000, primarily due to lower expenses to date than projected. Slide 4. This slide shows our most significant variances by category, with green bars representing favorable variances and orange bars representing unfavorable items. Overall, we had more revenue and less expense than expected. Our favorable variances included miscellaneous expenses. We were $349,000 favorable variance due to the $354,000 unrealized gain on investments. Remember, these are unrealized. Market conditions are currently favorable, but they can fluctuate. Interest income was $247,000 more than budgeted. Repairs and maintenance, $244,000 due to timing. Materials and supplies, $179,000 favorable due to timing, as were some other operating expenses of about $166,000. Unfavorable variances included rental and event revenue, which was $204,000 lower than our overstated budget amount, and golf operations were $195,000 less revenue than budgeted, mostly due to rain. Legal fees were $195,000 due to more employment-related legal activity than anticipated, and trust facilities fees were $153,000 unfavorable due to fewer manners sold. Slide 5. We have sources of revenue other than monthly assessment, such as fees and rentals, that we refer to as non-assessment revenue. To date, we've received $9.1 million. Broadband services generated the most revenue, followed by the trust facilities fees, golf operations, and so forth. Non-assessment revenue helps keep down the GRF portion of our monthly assessment, which is currently $202.83 and will be $205.60 in 2020. Slide 6. Expenses to date of $27.8 million are shown on this pie chart, with our largest categories being compensation, cable TV, depreciation, utilities, insurance, and outside services. The ratio of these expenses changes throughout the year. And slide 7, this slide shows resale history from 2017 to 19. Community-wide sales this year total 542 through August 31st. Most of these transactions generate the $5,000 trust facilities fee, which in 2019 is the primary source of revenue for our reserves. Next slide. Now we'll start looking at the reserve and contingency fund adjusted balances. That's what's shown on slide 8. Starting with the first column on the left, the funds show a combined balance of $30.1 million. Included in this total are contributions received this year through assessments, trust facilities fees, and interest earnings. The second column shows work in progress of $7 million, reflecting the amounts paid on projects that are not yet complete. The third column shows the net of the first two columns. This net adjusted fund balance is just $23.1 million. Excuse me. Slide 9. We compare our current year balances to historical fund balances. For the past 5 years, GRF has averaged about $23 million in reserve and contingency funds. And now for slide 10, our last slide. This slide gives you an idea of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $23.1 million the board has appropriated for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrances against GRF reserve and contingency funds is $12.8 million, primarily for renovation projects. That's it for the slides, but I remind you that more detail is provided in the GRF Finance Committee meeting agenda packets, which are available online and at GRF Finance Committee meetings. I just have a couple of GRF Finance Committee task forces to update you on. The first is the Investment Task Force. The GRF Board voted to change investment firms, as did the United and Third boards. All three corporations will be transitioning from Merrill Lynch BlackRock to Sageview Advisory Group. The task force met with Sageview last month to discuss how the transition will take place. A follow-up meeting is planned with Sageview this Thursday, October 3rd. Excuse me. It's in the boardroom, and it's open to residents, and all board members from all the boards are encouraged to attend. The second task force is the Alternative Revenue and Cost Sharing Task Force. Its mission is to research alternative sources of revenue and alternative cost sharing models for the GRF Finance Committee to evaluate at its February 2020 meeting. If the Finance Committee decides some of the ideas are promising, they will recommend to the GRF Board that the ideas be considered for future operating budgets and capital plans. I don't have anything significant to report today, but expect an update at the next GRF Finance meeting, which is Wednesday, October the 23rd at 1:30 in the boardroom. If you're interested in or have questions about GRF's finances, I urge you to come to the GRF Finance Committee meeting, where we will go over GRF's current financial statements in much more detail than presented today. It's the best forum for you to ask questions about our finances. If you have questions or comments, you can also email me at diane.phelps@lagunawoodsvillage.com. That's it for me.
Thank you, Diane. And next, we have the report of the Community Activities Committee, Director Soul.
Thank you. The Community Activities Committee met on Thursday, September 12th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. And Director of Recreation Brian Gruner gave us a report that the English Second Language program is doing exceptionally well. We have the following facility enhancements. We have new pool furniture for all pools, which has been delivered. The new pool furniture is safer and more comfortable. Approximately 2,000 new banquet chairs for the clubhouses will be delivered during the first week of October. The ballroom floors have been waxed and cleaned for general upkeep. The emergency phone lines have been upgraded at Pool 2 and 6. The new handrail grips have been added to the pool handrails to ensure safety. Construction on the Performing Arts Center is moving forward, and no shows have been booked after May 2020 to allow for the start of construction. The Clubhouse 4 jewelry room has been redone for safety. A new ventilation system in the paint room at Clubhouse 4 will be installed to meet OSHA standards. An air ventilation system will be added in the Clubhouse 4 ceramics room. A community gathering area will be completed at the Garden Center 1. A volunteer program has been created at the Garden Centers, with the first volunteer starting soon. And the Garden Center policies will be reviewed for updates. The Video Club was allotted 75 repurposed banquet chairs, And Director Juanita Skillman stated that the library received repurposed chairs from the Spruce Room at the community center. Events that are happening, Ms. Jennifer Murphy spoke about this at our meeting. She said that Timeless Melodies will be hosted, actually today, October 1st, at Clubhouse 2 at 1:30 p.m., and tickets are $5. The steak dinner will be on October 3rd at 5:30 p.m. at Clubhouse 1. Clubhouse 5 will host the Village Bazaar at 10 a.m. on October 5th. The Harvest Hoedown will be held on October 5th at the Equestrian Center, beginning at 4 p.m. The Rock and Roll Legends Show will be held on October 5th at the Performing Arts Center as part of the Celebrity Series. Shows are at 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. And the Performing Arts Center will host the October 21st free Monday night movie called The Upside at 7:30 p.m. The Saturday Night Dance will be hosted on October 26th at Clubhouse 5 at 6:30 p.m. And the Arts and Crafts Bonanza at Clubhouse 4 will be on November 2nd and 3rd. The Veterans Day event will be November 11th at Clubhouse 2 at 10 a.m. And Monday Night Football is now hosted at 5 p.m. at the Village Greens in conjunction with the 19th Restaurant. Evening drink and food specials are available. Mr. Gruner is requesting a separate task force regarding church club status, and we'll discuss further at our next CAC meeting. And that basically the GRF recreation pricing policies, the staff report, the pricing policy updates are going to reflect changes that'll take effect on January the 1st of 2020. Other than that, our next meeting, because we covered a lot today here in our meeting at GRF on items that were discussed at our CAC meeting, the date of the next meeting of the GRF Community Activities Committee will be held at 1:30 p.m. at the Community Center here in the boardroom on Thursday, November the 14th, 2019. Thank you.
Judith, you had a question?
Yes, Annette, in your report on page 3 of 6, at the CAC meeting, they talked a lot about an amphitheater, and I'm confused. I was out of state, so I couldn't be at that meeting. What amphitheater are we talking about? Can you expand on that?
Yes. A single resident came forward that said that he would like to see an amphitheater. And he had several suggestions and movements and things like that, but he really didn't have a lot of, it was just a single resident. And he didn't have any particulars as to costs, as to how many people in the community wanted it. So what we told him to do was to go back and do a fact gathering information. But that's what he just thought it would be nice if our village could expand with basically with an outdoor amphitheater.
Oh, thank you. That answers that.
Anybody else? Thank you, Annette. Report of the Landscape Committee, Director Moldow.
The Landscape Committee did not meet this previous month. We do know that the surveyor to delineate the boundary between United and GRF land is working today and should be complete very shortly. We do know that landscaping has again cut the reeds in the stream, and they just grow like stinkweeds. So it's just a temporary fix, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to do something in the future to make that area a park. Our next meeting is going to be held November 13th at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Thank you. Thank you. Report of the Maintenance and Construction Committee, Director Mattson.
We did not have a meeting last month, but I'd like to give you some information on what we are doing. I got some items here that have been closed out in the last few months. So the first one is Clubhouse Pool was reworked. Clubhouse 5 appliances, stoves and things were done there in that kitchen. The there's a new gate that's been added to El Toro Road. It's over by Garden Center 2. And the pickleball court, which everyone can see when they're driving by, was completed a few months ago. Also, the community center roof here was replaced here recently. Also, gates, security devices on about 9 different gates around here have been completed, and that's working out real well. The community center charge station for batteries on the back here is done, and that's now available. The items, on our current project log, which indicates all the work that we're doing, there are 19 items on it, and I'll mention a couple. Clubhouse 6, the HVAC system on the roof is going to be replaced. Clubhouse 1, the HVAC system there is going to be replaced, and that's one that we're looking forward to with the vision, the word that came out today. Also, GRF paving, which is not the slurry that we did at the gates, but it's paving, doing concrete repairs and the actual repaving, solid repaving of our roads. Also, the welding shop is going to be redone. And the last thing is the tennis center building. We'll be getting to that. Right now, we're out for a request for a bid for doing that work on a tennis center building. Our next meeting will be Wednesday the 9th, which is a week from tomorrow, right here in this room. That's all.
Thank you. Do you want me to report on Performing Arts Center?
Yes, if you would.
Yes. The ad hoc committee for the renovation of the Performing Arts Center met the committee which was selecting materials, the carpeting and draperies met and made their decision, and on October 17th will be our next meeting, and the architects will come with the final pictures of that and design, and then shortly after that, it will be going out to bid for the completion of the safety pieces backstage and any just painting that will happen and carpeting that will happen. That's actually the extent of what's going to be happening to the PAC. And that's that report. Thank you. So now do you want the Energy Task Force, Jim, to report?
Bert, can you do that?
Yep, it's going to take a while. Task Force has been extremely busy this past month. We confirmed an understanding of the mission of the task force, first of all, which is basically a community support, not essentially just individual HOAs. So I'm going to give you the whole scope of what we've been looking at. One thing is that at United, we asked staff to provide a status of the conversion of the LEDs in that community, or conversion to LEDs. Another important thing was that United experience with regard to solar seemed to indicate that they were underperforming. And the chair of that task force went out. He spent a lot of time trying to ascertain what the problem was, and he has deduced that the problem was overheating of the panels and possible overheating of the inverters. He took pictures of the filters on the inverter and found that they were blocked with lint and stuff that had not been cleaned. But with regard to the panels, he observed that, first of all, the panels on the carport rooftops were only 2 degrees on an angle, whereas the contract called for 5 degrees, which would have accounted for part of the loss of energy. Secondly, he found that there was very little airflow provision from the top of the carport to the panels themselves, and that the panels were running extremely hot. And we know that the hot panels basically lose efficiency. He has made a recommendation to the chair of the United M&C that they consider bringing in an independent consultant to look at the situation, confirm what he is basically saying, and make recommendations on how we can increase the performance of those panels. Okay. We've directed staff to remove a timer that was in the circuit at Clubhouse 7's parking lots. The timer was preventing the light-sensitive control that is built within the lighting themselves, okay, to operate. In other words, they were preventing the lights from going on because the timer was basically opening the circuit. So we've recommended to staff that they remove the timer from that circuit completely so that the lights will go on in the appropriate, at the appropriate time. We have received information from staff with regard to revenue of the tennis court lighting. The task force had arranged or had contacted with a contractor who was willing to come in and do a pilot free at the tennis courts. But I think wisely, this contractor first questioned whether or not the utilization of those lights on the tennis court would really justify changing out the lights to LED. So what we did is we had requested information from staff with regard to what is the annual usage of those lights, and we just got that information, and we will make a determination as to whether or not it even makes sense to change out those lights. We talked about the EMS system, the fact that we really do not have any positive way of controlling. We have nobody, basically, that is controlling the EMS system that we have put in. We spent a lot of money putting EMS into our community, but there is no control by anybody in staff to deal with this issue, to basically say, you know, what's the scheduling time, what's going on from day-to-day events, and in terms of putting that into the EMS system.
Tell them what EMS is.
Oh, energy management system. Okay, so we're looking at that right now. We also discussed the generator needs for the community. In the past, we had asked our consultant to look at microgrid. The consultant came back with a recommendation, which was not appropriate because what we need, because of the disaster task force, is a 24/7 operation or generation capability for the community center, which is the control center for disaster task force. And so they're coming back on the 18th of this month, and there will be a meeting, special meeting, held, and we will again look at this situation to see what we can do to assure 24/7 operation in the event of a disaster. We looked into the tennis building. There's a renovation plan for the tennis building, and there's been some question with regard to air conditioning, whether we should be air conditioning the building. And what we've asked is that alternatives, either air conditioning units or evaporative cooling, be looked at, and staff come back with information with which we can make a decision as to the alternative way that we want to go on that. With regard to our problems with regard to energy charging for EVs, electric vehicles, in the community, more and more we're seeing more electric pluggable vehicles coming into the community. So what we wanted to do was look at our data to find out where these EVs are going, where are these electrical vehicles, to determine where the load is, okay, where the energy demand is, so that we can make some logical decisions with regard to where we might want to put charging stations. Okay, so we are asking staff to fix The database that we currently have on vehicles to include additional information, such as pardon me. Okay. The location, the cul-de-sac number. We are also interested in knowing the VIN number, because the VIN number, which is a vehicle identification number that's on every car, provides us with adequate information to determine whether or not it's a hybrid vehicle or whether it's a pluggable or a full electric vehicles. You know, what we did when staff came back, they gave us a report which included hybrid vehicles, which was useless for us. Okay, so we felt that the VIN number becomes a very important piece of information that enables us to then make decisions with regard to where we need to put charging stations around our community. This is particularly important for the LH21 buildings that have carports and all of United's buildings. And it also would help us then determine what potential load we're facing. We may have to go back to the power company, SCE, and ask them to upgrade the transformer ratings in order to accommodate our charging. Fortunately, we found out that if they have to do this, it would not be any cost to us. They would be obligated to do that, which is very nice. We had a special meeting with the provider of our EV charging stations, the new ones that are out and back of this building. And we discussed what we should be charging for these new high-speed charging stations. We felt that they are basically warranting a higher rate. They are 8 times faster than the level 1s that we have out there and the level 2s. It's 4 times faster. And we feel that is warrants an additional charge for that service. So we discussed what we should charge. And a recommendation came forth, and that recommendation is going to be going to our M&C committee meeting this month. We also learned that we have in Third Mutual, we're doing their streetlights, okay? One of the things that we have done is we've gone to Third Mutual. We have a offer of, again, a free pilot for the fixture heads on the mushrooms, to replace the mushrooms. And it appears now that Third is going to really consider this possibility. And if it happens, it'll probably happen within the next couple of weeks, which I think is great. If it works out and these new pilots are effective, Third Mutual could save approximately $500,000 in their street lighting effort. Also, in the process of doing this, we learned, and this is interesting, late, we thought that when we were doing the street lights and we purchased the poles, that we were purchasing all the poles. Well, we learned that there is a number of poles that are used for walkway lighting in Third Mutual, which were not included in the procurement of those poles. So we have asked staff to come back and provide us with information as to how many poles there are for walkway lighting and where the location of those poles are. And that should be provided to us before the next meeting of the Energy Committee or the Energy Task Force. What makes that important is Siemens, who has the contract for replacing the lighting, has estimated, just for the streetlights, that there's a $72,000 a year savings for Third Mutual in energy. So if we have even 1/7 of the number of poles, this is why we don't know how many poles we have, but it looks like we have at least 30, 40, maybe 50. Staff indicated they thought there was a lot more than that. So we might be looking at, a $10,000 savings for Third. And the last. If you recall the last meeting, I reported on a company called Melrock that had a special new patented product that was usable for monitoring and controlling energy. And Melrock had come in and made a presentation to the committee and staff. And let me see if I can find it here. I have the report. Oh, here we go. And 3 members of the Energy Task Force and a member of staff went to a location where Melrock had piloted this program and talked to the energy manager. This is interesting, an energy manager who manages the program, and saw what the Melrock system has done. And let me tell you something. This was at Pomona College, and they had received a $2.5 million grant from the California Energy Commission to enable the college to more precisely monitor, control, and adjust energy use in key buildings, leading to energy savings expected to exceed 20%. And this was the grant. Interestingly enough, the grant had nothing to do with adding generation or solar. It was a grant that was to reduce the carbon content in the atmosphere, which they accomplished as well. No effort was made, okay, for generation, therefore. But carbon reduction has been achieved through improved efficiency, the equipment replacement, and data monitoring, permitting real-time control of such devices as actuators, controllers, all contained within the energy system. For instance, these vents here, in terms of the piping, bringing air in, okay, have actuators to control the baffles, okay? And this system has that capability of doing that so that you can control your temperature when you have a set point and keep it at that set point. It's really very powerful. Pomona has 50 buildings that they're going to convert. And this energy manager indicated that the whole system that they're looking at in these buildings, okay, the cost of that was covered by the savings of the first building that they implemented. Very significant. Now, in terms of Laguna Woods, you know, they encountered the system. Over the years, different manufacturers' equipment had been installed in different buildings, some of which were obsolete, some of which were non-functioning. They didn't know about it. Sounds like Laguna Woods. Okay, I think we have different equipment. We have equipment that might not be functioning, and we don't even know it. Okay, and this is something that they are now learning about because these, the equipment that they provide, Melrock provides, allows you to monitor on a real-time basis. They sample, okay, every minute. They are capable of looking at anomalies. They're capable of looking at failures. They're capable of, with an artificial intelligence piece of software, determining whether there's a possibility that the equipment is going to fail. Very, very powerful, okay? And one of the things that they pointed out, by the way, this building are we still commissioning this building? Jeff? Are we still commissioning this building?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things they point.
I think it's anticipated that within about a month period, 2 weeks to a month.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that they pointed out with commissioning is, number one, they have used their system, because they've been commissioning buildings, they've used their system to actually find out when the commissioning agent, okay, was not doing the job properly. The system was able to detect that piece of information. They went back, commissioning agent, and made them redo the job. Okay, they actually said to me they feel that with this system installed, they can eliminate the need for the commissioning agent. I don't know how much we pay our commissioning agent to commission a building, but again, it's a potential economic savings that's significant. Okay, so what we are proposing to do is we will be going to M&C this month, okay, proposing that we proceed to use Melrock in a pilot situation, okay, for this building to see, you know, how effective it would be here. But it will be dependent, and this is something that we have to bring up, it will be dependent upon this community or staff considering including or hiring an energy manager, okay, that basically will oversee the system, basically will look at the daily reports that are highlighting the problems. And one of the things that he does, this is interesting, he looks at the problems in the morning, okay, and generates work orders right then and there, based upon what he's seeing needs to have attention. So you can begin to see the real power of this system. Okay, so you will be seeing at the M&C our proposal and our recommendations. Thank you. That's my report.
Excellent report.
Thank you, Bert. We are now on the report of the Media and Communications Committee. Director Millman.
Okay, we met Monday, September 16th, 2019. And how to follow that energy report, I don't know. It's wonderful. Ms. Pollan reported on the marketing and communication services. Certain goals include improving the website, its searchability, its platform, resident information, and then offering village-wide training sessions on to how to use the website and various other electronic means such as, well, we'll get to that in just a moment. Also, our collaboration with Village Television, the communications group is coordinating programming to assure concise, consistent messages to the residents, and pre-planning with all staff and board members presentations to assure, again, messaging consistency. So gradually, we're getting to be more and more alike in our presentations. Our presentations look more like they're intentionally part of Laguna Woods Village. So that's what we're doing. You're going to be seeing something new within a few months. There's going to become, we're working on establishing a bi-monthly magazine, something that would be delivered to every unit in the village. You know, so many people don't look at the television, or they don't read the Globe, or they don't have internet or whatever, but here you would have something actually on the doorstep. And this publication would be paid for by sponsors, so it's not going to cost us anything. It would be a wonderful magazine, 4-color, coded cover. It would include recreation events and classes, pool and fitness center schedules, a community map, which could be a pullout, transportation information, alterations, landscape, maintenance, security, social services, resident services, updates of all kinds, important village phone numbers, information from VMS staff and board of directors, and other helpful articles. And this would come out every other month. In addition, we would still continue with the idea of the village breeze and things that are going on with all of the boards, so that you wouldn't neglect the monthly information. But this bi-monthly publication will catch most everything that's out in flyers and other ways that it wastes a lot of paper and not everybody sees. So this is a new idea that's coming forward from us. By the way, the electronics communications subscribers have increased. We now have 3/4 of the residents subscribing to the internet. Stellar, our software, has been further customized to be able to quickly target and deploy emails to residents affected by unscheduled things such as power failures or elevator outages or facility closures, and they would be targeting the actual people that use those things the most first. Also, regular posting of village news and club events to the website will be continued, and they also work on generating the crawl message that you see on Channel 6. Mr. Holland reported that the amount of calls that go to resident services to reserve people coming through the gate could be better handled through Dwelling Live, and is encouraging everyone to use Dwelling Live as an app to call your guests in. And there is training through YouTube and through the website if you're not just sure how to use it. And you can always call Eileen, Chuck, or me, or Eileen to find out how to do it if you get stuck. Mr. Holland also explained that contracts for West Coast Internet are coming up, and they're kind of on hold while he explores a little bit with other groups around the area. He's currently working on outside contractor to inventory what we have to determine what would be the best outcome for the village. So there are other systems out there that he's looking at, but I can tell you that so far the things he has found are far more expensive than what we have as a village on our internet. And so that's pretty much what we were working on this last time. Our next meeting will be Monday, October the 21st at 1:30 here in the boardroom. That's my report.
Do you want me to report on Thrive?
Yes, please report on Thrive. That's, sorry.
Okay.
Beth.
I have the pleasure of reporting on the Thrive Task Force, and it's just such an exciting group to be a part of. That last year, our project for the year really that we focused on as a team was the Centenarian Project. And that now is at the final stages, and what they're doing with that is they're going to be bringing the photos and the the video loop to the History Center. And it will be that's where it will be housed on display. The next project for this year is the Kindness Project. And this was one that was the dream child, talking of dreams and enabling dreams and visions out there, Joe. Joan came up with this, and Maggie Blackwell, who's also on the Thrive Task Force, just jumped in on it too. The Kindness Project, and this is just the beginning of it, and as teams, we're looking at it from different visions of how we can promote kindness here in the village. And so the September meeting that we had was the first meeting, and we left that meeting just so excited about the things that we can do to increase kindness, and so many wonderful positive things can happen as a result of this. And then the very next day, I received an email from Tom Nash, who's, I think he's president of the Video Club. Anyway, he's on the Thrive Committee and in the Video Club. And he sent me a front page article from the LA Times talking about UCLA has just received substantial grant of money. I don't want to say how much because I don't remember exactly. I don't want to misquote it, but substantial amount of money to put together a kindness project. So they are starting one at the same time we are starting one, and so not sure what we'll do with that. We may communicate with them and see if you got any ideas for us here in Laguna Woods. Could we share ideas? Anyway, so keep that in mind. You will be hearing more and more about the Kindness Project here, and it will be reaching out to the whole village and reaching a hand out in kindness. And their next meeting for the Thrive Committee is October 23rd in the Willow Room. Thank you.
Y'all have done a great job in the last 1,000 years. You notice that your meeting was 1019.
We have done a wonderful job in 1,000 years, haven't we? We just moved right along. That's a good catch. Thank you, Juanita. Okay, so where are we now? We are on Director Ray Gross, report of mobility and vehicles. Thank you.
This unfortunately will be a little bit long too, but not quite as long as Bert. In any event, we met on August the 7th, and there was a tremendous amount of questions and suggestions made at that meeting. And FAIR and peers were there to gather the additional information. And I have to say this, that Chris Loudenauer, with his staff, has done a phenomenal job. And I'm going to relate some of the information in just a moment as to what's going to happen tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. You will be amazed at what's going on. Fair and Paris Transportation Consultant will be provided the M&V Committee with final recommendations to improve our fixed route and plan-a-ride bus system at tomorrow's meeting. Staff will be making final recommendations to M&V Committee later in October and to the GRF Board in November. Implementation of proposed system changes will be in early 2020. 2 new buses have been received and are in service, and 2 more buses are in order and will be received at the end of the year. In addition, he has also gotten a particular vehicle that will allow mobilized, handy-challenged people to be able to ride in there. Before, it was just one person could ride in that vehicle. We have now changed it to where 2 additional people can go in that vehicle, which again is a tremendous improvement. And the group of us saw that, and we recommended it. A fuel service program with Age Well Senior Services is fully operational. That'll also be explained. And currently working with the local transportation service providers to identify areas to improve efficiencies to the transportation system. Now, with this meeting tomorrow, this is the packet. It is extremely full. And let me tell you, the data that's going to be provided, I'll give you an overview. There's going to be an introduction as to what's going to be happening and so forth and so on. We have the existing transportation system, the community respective responses from prospective people out there, general communication, a survey, other community input, modes of travel, bus operational input, community route proposal, service recommendations, redesigning the fixed route system, which was one of the big things, operate fixed route on Saturday, revise the plan-a-ride policy, other recommendations by phone responses, partnership with the Age Well Service. That is going to be a tremendous situation which will help us with transporting people here in addition to what we have. And the service changes. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm extremely pleased with what's going to be going on tomorrow. And again, like I say, we'll be meeting towards the end of the month with more information which will be obtained tomorrow, and then we will be meeting with GRF to put this information forward. And I am extremely pleased with what that staff is doing now. I'll be honest with you. It is great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. And Ray, Laguna Canyon Foundation, oh wait, before we go to that, I don't know who was first, Ray?
I'd just like to comment. I had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to read that consultant's report, and it's one of the finest pieces of work that I have seen. And it's worthwhile if you can get it and read it before. I mean, it's excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to the same thing about the survey that was done. It was a general community survey, and a lot of the residents have been waiting for that. So please come to that meeting tomorrow so you can get all your questions and concerns answered that you've been yelling about for months and some cases years. So please spread the word and be there tomorrow.
Yeah, the really important part is that they met with all of the different mutuals, the 50, United, Third, and they spent all kind of time getting all kind of questions asked, and this is where this report comes in. Like Bart said, this is a really phenomenal report, and I'm very pleased with it.
So will that meeting be televised?
No, but I had asked in the past that we've televised meetings, but I'll tell you, if it's at all possible, that would be absolutely wonderful to be able to do. That is one of the finest, if nothing else, if we recorded it and played it later on, that would still be a benefit.
At last minute, we can request it be taped. We just, too late to do a live recording because of the schedule.
Right, because of the
But
scheduling,
Beth?
but that would be phenomenal, and this is what I'm going, this is what I'm going to ask, that we at least record it, tape it, and then play it in the future, because the community needs to see this. They really need to see this. Thank you.
So, Siobhan?
We don't anticipate that that will be able to be done on such short notice, but perhaps the special meeting at the end of October is a consideration.
But could it be considered to
Yeah.
just tape that report tomorrow if we
I was
could?
told in this room they could do that at last minute. That's how it was set up.
We just aren't set up that way that we can automatically make a switch like that, unfortunately. But we
Right.
can look at the special,
We'll look at the special meeting, and then could we just check and see if they could just tape it tomorrow, not
yeah, we'll
live?
check, but I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is what I was hoping. Thank
Whatever
you.
we can do would be great, but
Okay.
I have a feeling that the schedule is tight and that it's not going to be able to happen, but.
And are we
we'll-
set up with
we'll
an
give it a
overflow
shot.
room, just in case?
Pardon?
No, when we have these types of transportation meetings, we need to be set up with an overflow room, just in case? Is that going to be set up?
We do have the other room, we'd have to check to make sure that it's available.
I believe.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll double check on that. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. The time is 2:30 tomorrow. 2:30 tomorrow in this room, mobility meeting. Ray, Laguna Canyon Foundation.
Yes, I'm still involved with the Laguna Canyon Foundation, having been a director in the past. They provide with us every month, and I make sure that copies are made for the front desk so people can get it. You're talking in terms of like fitness hike at Willow, Let's Go Hiking, family hikes at the Dilley, International Observe the Moon Night, and all kind of information. It's just a phenomenal bit of information, and it is provided at the front desk. And what you need to do is, in many cases, you have to make reservations, and it's very important that you go ahead and sign up at lagunacanyon.org/events. That is what needs to be done. It really helps you, and it helps the staff over there to get things done properly. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Report of the Security and Community Access Committee, Director Tibbetts.
Okay, September was a pretty slow month, not too many activities as far as major activities go. We did have 22 petty thefts in the carports and patios. In the carports, it's usually items that people store out there, which we call clutter, and it's not supposed to be. And they will be notified by the compliance department to remove that stuff. I'm losing my voice for some reason. On the patios, especially the upstairs patios, if you can drive around and look at the upstairs patio, they're more exposed, and you can see how cluttered they are. Plus, there are some people who put freezers up there and refrigerators. They're trying to expand them to a different area, and you can't do that. So as soon as they are discovered, they're removed. This time I'd like to ask Ray Gross to report on the traffic hearings.
There were 19 issues on the traffic hearing, and most of them, believe it or not, are involved with speed, 11 to 15, 16 and over, tremendous amount of stop signs. What we try to do, also, people are given notice of violation for the contractors parking in the wrong place. And yeah, we're not aware of it. Well, those contractors are provided with a notice information, which is given to them. It tells them exactly what they have to do and why they have to do it. We spend a great amount of time when we show the video and so forth and so on. I, having been a policeman for so many years, I'm well aware of what's going on. And we actually show them things that they've done. As people come and say, well, I stopped 2 cars back, and that's okay, I stopped. No, you can't. You have to go to the limit line and stop. Oh, I didn't know that. And I also asked that DMV books are put at the front desk for their benefit. And we explain all of these items that they're doing wrong by showing them the video, and they actually see it. And you know, it's unbelievable. We're actually getting thank you because people are not apprised or aware of what's going on, and by showing them this, oh boy, I never had any idea I didn't stop. But wow, I wasn't going 16 miles over. I didn't think about that. So I try to explain to them, you must be cognizant of what's going on. If you have a challenge, We can handle that. If you have to do something specific, you're medically ill or something, stop, tell the officer will take the information and send you a letter. Also, people get upset with us because they get letters sent to them when they leave the community. Well, what happens is that they refuse to stop for whatever reason. So what the officer does is take a picture of the license plate and usually a picture of the person driving, send them a letter. And by showing this on video, it gives them a great idea of what's going on. And like I say, it's amazing how people will go ahead and say thank you now. Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of our reports. Our next meeting will be October 28th at 1:30 in this room.
Thank you, Don. And that brings us to future agenda items. All matters listed under future agenda items are resolutions on 28-day public review or items for a future board meeting. No action will be taken. And so now it's time for me to go around the circle and see member comments at the end, and I'm going to start over there with Siobhan.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you. Judith?
No comment. Great meeting. Thank you.
The only thing I forgot was that the traffic hearings are usually the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
It was a good meeting, but I want to basically just address everybody out there about the ongoing efforts to continue to use Dwelling Live. Basically, we're trying to, the call center here is handling 40% of the gate access calls. Originally, the goal was to reduce the number of 2 ambassador gates, and they're unable to do that because they're getting so many telephone calls for guests. So we would like to ask that people continue to use Dwelling Live, or at least go up to the computer room or check it out on YouTube and see how to do it if you have any questions. Chuck has modified it. It's very easy to get to on lagunawoodsvillage.com, so please check that out. And then also, if the people, VMS, if they can't reach you, they can't notify you. So please make sure that you go and fill out a code red. That's very, very important. And then if you want to opt out for members who wish to make their contact information inaccessible to the general membership, they have opt-out authorizations that you can form. And then basically, for the people that would like to leave a key with security, there's the contact information form and emergency notification record, which is here too in the village. So please make sure you use those. And the last thing, concerning what Juanita said about the census, Saul Veramontes is the Orange County Census Manager, and he was talking about, and I forgot to mention this originally, it's 1 census form per address. That's the ideal situation. So for those of you that have roommates or have 2 people, one person becomes the primary, and then anybody else who's in the household, they address the rest of the examples. But it's 1 census form or 1 application per address. Thank you. It was a great meeting.
Thanks. Joan?
Great meeting. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to recommend, since Bert is representing the Village Task Force on Energy, I'd like to see a written report, not just a verbal report, because he's covering a lot of information.
That's a good point. Good point. Thank you. Thank you. Don? Jeff? Cheryl? I think this was an excellent meeting, great participation out there and up here in the dais, and I thank everyone. And have a great day. It feels like fall outside. Wonderful weather. Have a great day.
Recess.
And this meeting is adjourned.
Recess.
Recess. Recess. Joan was recessed. Recess.
Did I say 2:30? No, I was out.